Welcome, council staff and those watching online to our council meeting. The City of Swan disclaims any liability for any loss arising from any person or body relying on any statement, discussion, recommendation or decision made during this meeting. Where an application for an approval, a licence or the like is considered or determined during this meeting, the City warns that neither the applicant nor any other person or body should rely upon that discussion or determination until written notice of either an approval and the conditions for which it relate to, or the refusal of the application is issued by the City. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed. The recording will also be archived and made available on the Council's website after the meeting. If you choose to participate in a meeting during public question time and public statement time, it is assumed that your consent is given for the audio to be recorded. Please keep your comments respectful to the Council and other members of the community. Visual images of the public will not be captured. Conditions of entry: no electronic, visual or audio recording or transmitting device or instrument is permitted to be used. A person who breaches this provision of the City of Swan Local Meeting Procedures Local Law 2019 will be required to immediately leave the premises. Attendance and apologies. I have an apology from Councillor Podovnik, and Councillor Jones is running late. She's at a school presentation. Are there any others, Mr CEO?
No, Mr Mayor, they're the only ones I've received. I think everyone else is present. Thank you.
Declarations of financial and proximity interest and interest affecting impartiality.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Bailey's declared a financial interest in item 13.4. That's the proposed use of associated development for an artificial insemination centre, lot 1780, number 46 Gaston Road, Bullsbrook. As Westport, the owner, is a customer of the company, and Councillor McCulloch has declared the same interest for the same reason. Councillor Catalano has declared a financial interest in item 4.1, proposed housing development lots 1, 2, 3, 4 and 178 Devon Street, Woodbridge, due to her employment. Councillor Catalano has declared a financial interest in item 4.2, Midland Meals Project, placement of sea container for storage and serving of meals, lot 13, number 56 Morrison Road, Midland, due to her employment. Declaration of interest in item C 1.5. Councillor Kiley, that's a consideration of changes to the local planning scheme number 17 to reflect Guildford being placed on the State Register of Heritage Places. Councillor Richardson declared a financial interest as she owns a State Heritage listed property in Guildford. Councillor Scanlon declared a financial interest as she part owns a house in Guildford until the 21st of December and owns a house in Guildford. Councillor Johnson declared an interest affecting impartiality as he owns a non-heritage house in Guildford. Councillor Kiley declared an interest affecting impartiality as he owns a house in Guildford. An application was made to the Minister for Local Government to allow Councillors Johnson, Kiley, Richardson and Scanlon to participate in the council meeting when this item is considered. The Department of Local Government, Sport and Cultural Industries advised me via letter on the 15th, that is yesterday, that the Minister has approved the application under Section 569(3)(b) of the Local Government Act 1995. The approval allows the disclosing members to fully participate in the discussion and the decision making. The conditions of the approval are as follows. The approval is only valid for the ordinary council meeting of the 16th of December when the agenda item C 1.5 is considered. The above-mentioned councillors must declare the nature and extent of their interest at the above-mentioned meeting, which they have done when the matter is considered, together with the approval provided. The CEO is to provide a copy of the department's letter of approval to the above-mentioned councillors. The CEO is to ensure that the declarations, including the approval given and any conditions imposed, are recorded in the minutes of the above-mentioned meeting when the item is considered. The CEO is also to provide a copy of the confirmed minutes of the above-mentioned meeting to the department to allow the department to verify compliance with the conditions of this approval, and the approval granted is based solely on the interest disclosed by the above-mentioned councillors, made in accordance with the application. Should other interests be identified, these interests will not be included in this approval, and the financial interest provisions of the Act will apply. Councillor Johnson has declared an interest affecting impartiality in item 13.4, the proposed use and associated development of an artificial insemination centre, lot 1780, number 46 Gaston Road, Bullsbrook, as he is working in agricultural software. Councillor Kiley declared an interest affecting impartiality in item 4.1, proposed housing development lots 1, 2, 3, 4 and 178 Devon Street, Woodbridge, as he is the executive member of the Guildford Association and may have contributed to their submission on this item. Councillor Bailey has declared an interest affecting impartiality in item 4.2, Midland Meals Project, placement of sea container for the storage and serving of meals, lot 13, number 56 Morrison Road, Midland, as he is on the committee of the Ellenbrook Community Collective, the applicant. Councillor Jones declared an interest affecting impartiality in item 4.2, Midland Meals Project, placement of the sea container for storage at lot 13, 56 Morrison Road, as she is a volunteer. Councillor McCulloch declared an interest affecting impartiality on the same item as she is on the committee of the Ellenbrook Collective. Councillor Kylie declared an interest affecting impartiality on item 5.7, proposed Guildford entry signage, as he is an executive member of the Guildford Association. I have declared as the CEO an interest in item 5.8, the second access road to Shady Hills, Bullsbrook. I've declared an impartiality as my son Stephen is the director of JDSI, who has provided engineering design and advice to developers. Councillor Andrew Colley has declared an impartiality in an item under the urgent business revocation motion, recent Jude's amendments made under delegation, as any executive member of the Guildford Association, and may have contributed to the submissions made in reference to this. Councillor Zanino has declared an impartiality in item 4.6, the responsible authority of thought, Catalyst 2 mixed-use development, lot 201, number 3, Junction Parade, Midland. Mr Mayor.
Councillors, is there by any chance any others? Okay, now we're out of time to declare the meeting closed. Thank you, Mr CEO. It takes us now to public question time. Questions and answers recorded in the minutes of the meeting may be summarised in accordance with the Local Government Administration Regulations 1996. Questions and answers marked with an asterisk have been amended either for the purpose of summarising, e.g. removing preamble statements, or editing. Answers to questions taken on notice. There are questions from Ms Viola Maripodi, and the answers have been supplied by Councillor McNamara. Questions relating to reports containing gender, questions for which due notice has been given. I have nil. 5.2.2 questions without due notice. Any questions to gallery relating to items on the agenda? None. Other questions?
That's one, Mr Mayor.
Oh, there is one. Sorry, I didn't see you over there, sir. If you'd like to come to the microphone, just state your name and ask your question, please.
Thank you. Philip Riley, resident in Guildford. I have one question without notice, thank you for this time, relating to the St Jude's development in Guildford. Is the Council aware that the application received by the Water Corporation from BPA Engineering, St Jude's engaged engineer, shows excavation off-site onto adjacent residential property? With the Council requests that the applicant seeks consent from the affected neighbours using a BA20 form prior to issuing the building permit, for the reason that the excavation works will damage structures located adjacent to the wall on the off-site property.
Take it on notice, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Notice. Thank you, Mr Riley. Any other questions from the gallery? Thank you. 5.3.1 questions for which due notice has been given. There's questions from Mr Bob Ellsbury. They have been answered. Also questions from Mr Harry Gratt.
He's in the audience, Mr Mayor.
Mr Gratt, you've received those answers? Oh, yeah. Okay, they are in the green folder. Can we get Mr Gratty's answers? Questions from Ms Karen Mowat. They have also been answered. Also questions from Mr Bob Baku. Those answers have been supplied.
Some have been, Mr Mayor.
With the exception of
1 to 3, all taken on notice, Mr Mayor.
1 to 3 on notice, yep. Okay, now that takes us to, we have some
questions from Mrs Viola.
Miss Viola Maripodi. She has available. No, there you are. If you just the microphone, thank you, Miss Maripodi. You know the drill.
Thank you.
Councillor Congredon is leaving the chamber.
Okay, thank you. The minutes I'm referring to tonight are dated 13th of January 2010. Tonight my question will be directed to Councillor Zanino, who was Lord Mayor at the time. In 2009, the City of Swan requested to purchase only the northern side of Paradise Keys from the Crown. Do you recall this? Thank you.
Ms Barrapo, do you want to ask all your questions to councillors?
No, that was the only one. Because,
Thank you.
In the question 2, in 2009, State Land Services guidelines required the City of Swan to advertise for public comment to gain approval to purchase this northern side of Paradise Keys. The majority of people objected to the city purchasing this land, yet you still managed to buy this northern side of Paradise Keys. How?
Take on notice, Ms Maripodi. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 3. We haven't found any evidence of the proposal by the City of Swan to purchase the southern side of Paradise Keys, this side being the Aboriginal heritage site and conservation category wetland. So my question is, when did Council seek public comment before purchasing this southern side of Paradise Keys, and what were the results?
Take on notice.
Thank you. In the same minutes that night, I refer to, and I quote, "It is recommended that Council resolve not to progress with the cancellation and acquisition of the subject portion of Reserve 44267 due to its unsuitability for the purpose of an aged care facility." End of quote. Council found it to be unsuitable, so who was responsible for ignoring this recommendation?
Take on notice.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the gallery? None. We're now, if you, Ms Maripodi, you want to submit those questions if you've got them in writing so they can be answered? Thank you. For Councillor Congdon to return. We can now move to public statement time. We have 6 public statements registered, and the first one is from Ms Lynn Deering on behalf of the Friends of Woodbridge Bushlands against the recommendations of item 4.1, the proposed housing development lots 1, 2, 3, 4 and 178 Devon Street, Woodbridge. Councillor Catalano is leaving the chamber. Ms Deering, if you just wait one moment. Thank you, Ms Deering. You have 2 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Bailey and City of Swan councillors. Can I start my 2 minutes now? Good evening, Mayor Bailey and City of Swan councillors. My name is Lynn Deering and I'm a resident of Woodbridge, and tonight I speak on item 4.1 on behalf of the Friends of Woodbridge Bushlands. Tonight, Friends ask the council to reject this proposal because the proposed land use is not in accordance with its zoning. There are insufficient details and information in the development application. And the approach adopted in the proposal is out of step with the WA housing policy, approaches of best practice to address homelessness. The previous deputations against this proposal spoke with conviction from professional experience. You have also heard from the applicant. In your role tonight, you are being asked to make a decision primarily on a planning matter. To support you, Friends would like you to consider what are the implications, legally and ethically, when land is zoned regional reserve, parks and recreation. To support residential development here at this site disregards Development Control Policy 5.3. Effectively, to support this proposal would be misuse of the land as is designated. Can land zoned for public use then exclude the public? Unlike the 2 other pilot sites that are on unused road and railway reserve, here in Woodbridge, this temporary proposal will remove local public land, 80 years of public growth, old growth trees, existing habitat, green corridor and public access forever. The recommendation report has 2 options. Recommendation option 1 does not resolve matters concerning location, appropriateness of the model, and is at the expense of valuable urban bushland. The applicant last week indicated they would not accept the unless conditions given in the report, apart from changing the aspect of the window.
That's your 2 minutes. We appreciate your time.
Oh, can I?
2 minutes. How much time you got left? Because I'm sure
I just
you
want
were
to
aware you
read
had
the
2
option that I prefer the council to go with.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so
You've got about 10 seconds.
Friends ask Council to support recommendation option 2 and reject the My Homes proposal on the basis that the land is not intended for residential development. In this way, we are supporting the rights of insecure women and the homeless people to have the voices heard, views of incorporating the evidence-based models and saving a rare bit of urban bushland.
A good deal of 40
Thank
seconds.
you, Council.
Now on item number 6.2 is Mr John McDermott speaking regarding the basketball court and skate park approved for Sandown Park, Henley Brook. And Mr McDermott, you too have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is John McDermott, a resident of Sandown Circle, Henley Brook. I'm speaking on behalf of approximately 120 residents who signed a petition against a proposal for a basketball court skate park at Sandown Park. We as a community in Henley Brook feel that this proposal, which has thrust on us...
Excuse me, do we have to recall Councillor Catalano?
Yeah, thank you. If you just stop,
wait.
Mr McDermott, and I'll restart your time. Thank you.
Councillor out of the room.
Okay.
All right, Mr McDermott, we'll start you again.
Okay.
Yeah, now we've got a full
Start from the beginning.
Well, you can skip that. Just carry on and we'll keep you going.
Well, yeah, we as residents and ratepayers strongly protest to the proposed works happening on the following aspects. The safety issue is a major concern for residents, as this will bring more traffic into the area, which at present, Henley Brook was designed solely for the householders and their visitors. The roads are not that able to take the traffic that this would cause. We already have traffic coming through from Ellenbrook. This would bring extra traffic in, and myself has seen incidents where street corners are logged at peak hour traffic with traffic and children are put at risk. The skate park where it was going to be located is right on the corner of a pretty busy junction. The residents enjoy the park as with the beautiful lakes, shaded areas to sit in and relax and exercise, read, unwind, kick a ball with the children. The skate park and basketball court will produce noise and undesirable activities that has been proven with these places in the past. Security is a major concern with the residents, bringing people into the area that do not reside in, and in the past has shown brings into play unsociable behaviour, vandalism, etc., etc. Residents are certainly not killjoys, but many have come to enjoy our park for what it already is, a place to relax, have a family barbecue, etc. Certainly upgrade their lighting and security in the area and keep up the great work of maintaining the park, but as for the proposed works, we disagree. Thank you.
That's your 2 minutes. Well done. Thank you. Now go to 6.3, which is Mr Greg Neve speaking against the recommendation of item 13.4, the proposed use for associated development of artificial insemination centre.
Excuse me, Mr Mayor, Mr Neve is not in attendance
He's not
tonight.
there. Okay, remove that one. We'll go to 6.4 and Dr Anne Sybil on behalf of the Bullsbrook community.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm here on behalf of the whole of the Bullsbrook community, not just Bra, which is my usual. Beg your pardon? Hat. Yeah. And I'm also here on a different mission tonight too. I'm here to thank you, to thank the councillors and to thank the staff for a couple of wonderful wins that we've had in Bullsbrook this year. It's been a pretty rough year for us. You might remember we had a big petition against Mr Brakovich's timber sales, 150 trucks up Chittering Road and back every day past the school. It went to SAT and we won. Usually when things go to SAT, we get warned that it's going to be a long haul, that we won't win. It'll cost the council $50,000 or whatever. But we only heard last week, it went on for nearly the whole year, that Justice Parry found in our favour. So that's fantastic. And if we hadn't have had the opportunity to go to SAT, then that wouldn't have happened. So we know that those trucks won't be going up the hill beside the kids at the school, beside the new estate that we've got. So thank you very much.
Thank
It
you,
works
Dr.
sometimes. And we worked, I must admit, we worked really, really hard. We had a couple of petitions with over 1,200 that, and we had Jess Shaw working like a champion with us as well. So, and what I love about it, I'm going to run out of time, aren't I?
You are out of time, Dr. Ann. Frank, get that microphone off her. You shouldn't have given it to her.
All right. We also want to say thank you for the shed. You gave us the extra funding for the museum shed, so that's fantastic as well, because we lost it because of COVID, and we wouldn't have been able to go ahead with the project. So you guys gave us some extra money, so thank you very much as well. And the last one I have, I'll be really quick, is please consider stable flies when you're looking at the piggery project. I know a lot about them. They are disgusting creatures, and yeah, okay. If you want to know more, come and see me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ann. Okay, the next speaker is Mr. Mr. Wayne Charles. Is Mr. Charles with us? Yes, he is here. Thank you, Mr. Charles. You have 2 minutes.
It's going to be simple. It's a thank you again. I live in Lower Chittering, and we were also involved in the successful SAT hearing. We live in Rosa Park, and on behalf of the people at Rosa Park, we'd like to thank all the council for all the work it put in, but we'd also like to thank an ex-councillor, David McDonnell, because he was the one who actually put forward that Rosa Park should be included in the submission to SAT in relation to Brakovich. So look, I'd like to thank all of you, and thanks very much for your assistance from the people from Rosa Park. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Charles. Okay, now we move to 6.6, Mr. Ben Doyle, in regard to the modified development approval for the St Jude's Hostel, Guildford.
Mr. Mayor, I've got proximity interest, so I'll leave the room if I'm...
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you.
Mr. Doyle, you can
Thank
carry
you, councillors, for the opportunity to speak in relation to the revocation motion for St Jude's. In 20 years' experience as a town planner, never before have I seen a more bewildering, incoherent and bizarre approach to dealing with an application for planning approval. I sincerely hope this will be resolved tonight. Having reviewed Councillor Kiley's notice of motion to revoke the approval today, I confess I am still none the wiser about what the actual concerns are in relation to the minor amendments to the planning approval previously granted by Council. The concerns appear to be procedural rather than material. From what I can infer from media reports and social media, I understand the issue is causing some concern in the community in relation to the trees under the sugar gums on the south side of Swan Street. In this regard, I'll just make a few things clear. In our original application, we provided data to demonstrate that no additional off-site parking is required. Notwithstanding, the city's officers recommended or required us to provide parking. We proposed that on the north side the opposite side of Swan Street. In the officer report, the recommendation to Council was to relocate the bays to the south side, and Council adopted that recommendation. And between them, Councillor Kiley and Councillor Scanlon moved 9 amendments to that recommendation. Not one of those amendments related to removing the car bays from under the sugar gums. So I'm perplexed that this is now being used as an issue. Just so we're clear, we never proposed bays under the sugar gums. We were required as a condition of planning approval to put bays there, and we have lodged plans demonstrating that. We have no preference whatsoever about the location of those car bays. We'll put them on the south side, we'll put them on the north side, we'll put them around the corner, we'll put them on the moon. When Council makes up its mind where it wants them, that's where we'll put them.
Thank you, Mr.
In the
Doyle.
meantime,
Thank you,
we
Mr.
have a
Doyle.
DA and we'd like our
That's your
building
2
permit.
minutes. Thank
Thank you.
Do you need an extra minute, or are you just about to wrap
I
it
need
up?
about an extra 10 seconds.
You can have 10 seconds.
Thank you. We'd be quite happy, after the issue of our building permit, to discuss with the city's officers the location of those bays. But now we have a valid approval and we would like our building permit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle. It takes us now to item 7. Recall Councillor Johnson. Takes us to 7.1, which is petition. And first up is a petition of 120.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Johnson, I need an application if you're declaring a proximity interest on that item. I haven't received anything. It's not been listed. Thanks.
Thank you. First up is 7.1 is a petition containing 120 signatures requesting the city not proceed with the basketball court and skate park approved for Sandown Park, and Ms Karen Allen presenting that petition. Thank you, Ms Allen.
Hello councillors, thank you for letting us speak tonight. I'm here representing, along with Mel Smith, about 120 people that signed a petition regarding the proposed skate park and basketball courts at Sandown Park. I'm one of the affected residents as I live directly opposite the park, and I just wanted to share a bit more of a personal insight into what we...
Okay, Ms Allen, you're not doing a presentation. Have you got a cover sheet for the petition?
Mel had that.
Okay. You've only allowed 2 minutes, so
2 minutes.
You need to tell us about the petition.
So with the petition points that we had was the noise impact it would have with the increase of skateboards, scooters, balls, increased traffic and hoon cars, music, and the effect that the water, where sound bounces off the water. So we do get quite a lot of noise impact at the park, and this will increase with basketballs and skateboards. Sanitation facilities are lacking in the park. We don't have toilets, so the toilets, quite often we've had people come to the park and just urinate and defecate in the park. So this would increase. We would have an increase in vandalism and littering. Residents are already picking up a lot of litter and takeaway packaging and other things in the park. This would increase. We've already had arson and drug dealing in the park, and we fear that this would increase at the park. We've also, especially the residents that live around the park, have had burglaries and attempted break-ins, and we fear that this would increase for us as well, as the facilities would be open all night for people within or outside of the area to come. Also, the concerns for wildlife. It is an area with large ponds and lakes, so we have a lot of ducks and bird life, and we're concerned that the increased traffic would cause injury to wildlife, and there has already been attacks on ducks in the area where they've been decapitated and things have happened to them already. We do enjoy the tranquil park with the lakes and the nature, and we're hoping that the council will consider that the facilities aren't really fitting to the nature of the park and what the residents currently enjoy. Thank you.
Ms Allen. Normally, councillors, we'd have a motion here to resolve that the petition be referred to the CEO for response. But in this instance, there is a proposed motion from Councillor Congerton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The resolution presented by myself is to request the CEO to put on hold the implementation of the project until the 31st of January to allow Whiteman Ward councillors the opportunity to consult further with the affected residents.
Seconder, Councillor Parry. Is anyone against? Okay, for the benefit of those... One quick question.
How far is the park away from the nearest resident?
Councillor Congerton, the other one?
60 to 70 metres.
Here you go. Okay. Thank you.
It would be 35 metres from my
okay. Thank you.
35. Okay, thank you.
Is there any, now, we've got the mover and a seconder. Is anyone against? Declare that carried. So for the benefit of the gallery, that is now on hold until such time as that consultation takes place. Now hand over to Councillor Richardson, who has an announcement to make. Councillor Richardson, if you use that microphone next to you, please.
I advise this meeting that a complaint was made to the Local Government Standards Panel in which it was alleged that I contravened Regulation 4 and Regulation 7(1)(b) of the Local Government Rules of Conduct Regulations 2007 WA when I made comments that were derogatory and reflected adversely on another council member at the council meeting held on 11th of March 2020. And the panel found that by behaving in this manner I committed one breach of Regulation 4 and one regulation of 7(1)(b) of the Local Government Rules of Conduct Regulations 2007, and I accept that I should not have acted in such a manner, and I apologise to Councillor Kate McCulloch for having done so.
Thank you, Councillor Richardson. Now we move on to 7.2, which is a petition regarding the proposed childcare centre at number 7 Fauntleroy Street, Guildford, and Miss Judith Smythe presenting that petition.
Good evening, Mayor Kevin Bailey and all City of Swan councillors. My name is Judith Smythe and my family and I live in Swan Street, East Guildford. I'm here to present a petition of 141 signatures on behalf of the residents to reject the proposed childcare centre at 7 Fauntleroy Street. We received notification 23rd October, 28th October we received in the post, and we were given to 14th November to approve or oppose. This was extended, and since the postal communication has gone out to only local residents in the immediate proposed said area, other Guildford residents in close proximity were unaware of said proposal and only learned of it via word of mouth. We notice as of 16th September there still has been no notice of intention or billboard on the site to advertise the proposal. I'm unsure if this is a requirement or not, but surely all local communities should be informed. We have taken it on ourselves to collect signatures in immediate surrounds. If the larger Guildford community were notified, there would be further opposition. This is a small residential pocket of Guildford. It is already under traffic and parking pressure due to proximity of railway station and St Jude's aged care facility, along with Fauntleroy House on James Street. This residential area cannot cope with another large-scale commercial development. Whatever happened to heritage protection, it would have a huge impact on the streetscape owing to the removal of beautiful mature trees to make way for a car park fronting the street. The road would need to be widened for safety reasons, and then we'll lose the street trees as well. Non-compliance with Planning Bulletin 72/2009 Guide to Childcare Centres with regards to location and traffic, and clients coming outside the proposed area, impacting viability of services in surrounding areas. Unacceptable under State Planning Policy 5.1, which protects against development incompatible with Perth Airport, childcare centre proposed directly under flight path. The former owner of this heritage site, Mr Fred Bishop, featured in the 2021 City of Swan calendar, and you're now considering a development application.
Thank you, Ms Smythe. That's your
Here's
2
Fred
minutes.
Bishop in the 2001 calendar.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for your
Councillors, we have a recommendation that the petition be referred to the CEO to be dealt with as part of relevant development applications. The mover.
Mr Mayor, before you do, I think I need to declare an impartiality interest in this one, as it's quite near to my home, although it's definitely not a proximity. I'll fill in the form.
You put the form in. Okay, mover. Councillor Congdon, second to Councillor Perry. No one against you. That carried. Now move to 7.3, a petition requests the City not allow the construction of car parking bays on the southern verges of Swan Street East, as this will damage the roots of the century-old sugar gums, leading to the demise of the historic trees. And Councillor Johnson, I assume you're leaving the room. Thank you. And Miss Barbara Dundas, on behalf of the Guildford Association, to present the petition. And Miss Dundas, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Mayor and councillors of the City of Swan, I want to thank you for the opportunity to present this petition of 221 names. We call on the City of Swan not to allow the construction of car parking bays on the southern verges of Swan Street East, as this will damage the roots of the century-old sugar gum trees and lead to their demise and probably ultimate loss. I want to say that these trees are very significant in Guildford. was advised a couple of days ago by Heritage Council that they do not support any parking under these trees. And I guess we were a little disappointed that the officers had recommended this, and we've subsequently learnt that Heritage Council did not see the officers' recommendation, which is really important to realise when one views recommendations. On behalf of the Guildford Association, I would like to present this petition asking that we protect our historic sugar gums. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Dundas. Councillors, there's a motion that the above petition be referred to the CEO for a response. Move Councillor Congdon, second Councillor Parry.
Mayor, I might have do I have an interest in that as an executive of the GA itself? Do I have to put something in when a petition's put forward?
Yep. Well, it's impartiality, so you can put in. You've done it. Okay, I think you've already done it, haven't you? For the whole lot, so it covers that both. Cover that as well. Yep.
It's just been so many. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Item 7.4 is a petition regarding St Jude's Hostel from Mr Philip Briley on behalf of the St Jude's Action Group.
Sorry, Philip.
Thank you, Mr Briley. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much indeed for the time. This petition has 564 signatures in opposition to the development. It requests that the City of Swan upholds the rules of proper planning to protect our aged, our vulnerable and our heritage. We, the undersigned, respectfully request that the Mayor of the City of Swan, Councillor Kevin Bailey, and all City of Swan councillors reconsider the expansion of the privately owned St Jude's residential care facility in Guildford. If plans for the expansion are allowed to proceed further, the safety and quality of care of future aged care residents is at risk due to poor planning decisions, residential amenity in a heritage and unique historical suburb will also be irretrievably lost. I believe this may be too little too late, but if you were unaware of the substantial community opposition to this and the single supporting vote against it, then you may have had your head in the sand. So with that, I pass this on to you. Thank you for your time. Please read the comments. They are very heartfelt, particularly the lady who says, I am not sure St Jude's can manage the size of this at their location. On an extremely hot day this year, I came home to find one of their residents in my backyard. This was frightening for my children, but I'm sure it was worse for the poor lady. Who knows how long she had been there? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Briley. Councillor, of the same motion that the above petition be referred to the CEO for a response. Mover and Councillor Parry. Seconder. And Councillor Scanlon. No one against, that carried. And that takes us now to recall whoever's... Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, thank you. Mr Mayor, Councillor Johnson's declared a proximity interest in the St Jude's consideration of the urgent business. He's declared a proximity interest as he lives at 29 Swan Street, directly opposite the facility. Mr Mayor, thank you. When I get them, Mr Mayor, I'll read them out.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thought we had plenty of opportunity to get that. Okay. Takes us now to announcements by the presiding member, and I have a number. Firstly, councillors, from January 2021, members of the public visiting agenda forums and council meeting web pages on the city website will notice some changes. These changes have been made to improve and enhance the way members of the public access important updates and information on agenda forums and council meetings. The same information will be accessible on the website, including agendas and minutes for each meeting, key dates for 2021, information about public participation and a link to the live stream portal. We've made these changes. We hope these changes that are made will make visiting these pages a better experience. These changes will be published on Monday, the 4th of January 2021. Further announcements, councillors aren't aware that the Minister of Planning, the Honourable Rita Saffioti, has signed off on DCP's Amendment 170 and 169, which is the Bullsbrook DCPs, and they have now been gazetted after a long time. Further, tonight is a rather momentous occasion for us, and especially for our CEO of 15 years, Mr Mike Foley. This will be Mike's last council meeting, but I'm sure that he will be tuning from his home television to watch the proceedings next month and the month after and forevermore. To that end, I've bought him a Netflix voucher. Mike is a true example of a talent development inside local government. He joined the Shire almost 40 years ago and rose through the ranks to ultimately become the CEO. This has been a really important example for staff and aspiring engineers throughout Western Australia. Way back in 1981, Mike joined the Shire of Swan as a construction engineer, having cut his teeth in regional WA working for Main Roads. Back then, the population of the Shire of Swan was just 31,859 people. That's fewer than the current population of Ellenbrook. Having lived through the momentous growth period, Mike has seen over 130,000 people come to the area over 39 years. Since taking over as CEO in 2006, over 67,000 people have flocked to the city of Swan, making it one of the most desirable places to live in WA, and even better than Wanneroo. And I hope the Mayor's listening. Mike was instrumental in bringing new ideas to the City of Swan to help us keep pace with the community we serve. In 2012, he worked with our councillors and staff to instigate a place management approach in Australia to improve service delivery and strengthen the connection between residents and bureaucrats. Mike understood that the world revolves around people. No matter what you do, how you do it, or how much it costs, everything comes back to the people. Ensuring that the residents are understood, their concerns addressed and explained, and bringing the right people into the process early helped build his reputation as a collaborative leader. Mike leaves behind so much to the City of Swan, but for me our biggest loss will be Mike's passion for the people. Mr Foley, a huge thank to you on behalf of Council, residents and the ratepayers of the City of Swan, and we all hope that you enjoy your retirement.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, we now move to
Just
members.
a couple more disclosures, Mr Mayor.
Oh, a couple more.
Councillor Johnson's declared an impartiality in item 7.2. That was a petition at 7 Fauntleroy Street, as he lives nearby, Mr Mayor. And Councillor Tanya Richardson's declared an impartiality in the St Jude's reconsideration, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
CEO. Now get to members' questions. 10.1, answers to questions which were taken on notice. I have nil. 10.2, questions of which due notice has been given. I have nil. 10.3, questions of which due notice has not been given. And I have a large number of questions from Councillor Johnson that have all been answered.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. That's a very comprehensive set of answers.
And also have questions there from Councillor Henderson, which also too have been answered. Are there any further questions from councillors?
Supplementary question, if I may, Mr Mayor.
Okay, Councillor McNamara, you were first.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just an information question, please, Mr Mayor. It's with regard to the interests that have been declared. Is there any reason why an interest, a declaration of an interest, should block a councillor from actually signing a rescission motion if they have an interest in that particular subject?
Mr CEO.
Interesting question, Councillor. I'll have to take it on notice. I can't answer that.
Fine. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
I could offer a perspective, if you like, Mayor.
Well, we've taken it on notice, so we'll get some official advice on that question. Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Mayor. In regard to my questions, the answer to question 3, where it says that the answer is no, in respect of a Clementine Estate developer, has any action been taken against the work that was done by the contractor?
I'll have to take it on notice, Mr Mayor.
Russell, do you have an answer for that or not? No?
No.
No. Okay, we'll take that on notice. Okay, thank you. Further question, Councillor McNamara.
It's with regard to the questions and the answers given in 10.1 in the agenda, which I asked at the last meeting. I just want to refer to these and say that I actually want to refer these to the next. I'll be asking another question on these particular questions at the next council meeting in January.
That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Item 11 is leave of absence. Any requests for leave of absence, Mr CEO?
None that I have in front of me, Mr Mayor, so I haven't received any.
Okay. Any requests for leave of absence? None. Item 12 is confirmations of minutes. Councillors, with an amendment you'll see in paragraph 2 there that they enable the applicant time to submit details as to any intended crossover treatment in George Street associated with the use of a shed. This is in regards to a shed in Olsworth. It's been pointed out there is actually no such street as George Street in that locality. So that just should be noted as part of the minutes. And the recommendation down the bottom, councillors.
Is there.
So I just move for that recommendation. Moved Councillor McCulloch, seconded Councillor McNamara. Anyone against? Declare that carried. Minutes are accepted. Now move to business left over from the previous meeting at item 13.4, which is the proposed use and associated development of an artificial insemination centre on Gaston Road, Bullsbrook. I'll hand over the Deputy Mayor as Councillor McCulloch, and I've declared a financial interest.
Thank you. I'll just wait for Councillor Bailey and Councillor McCulloch to leave the chambers. And hand over to you, Councillor Richardson, for an alternative motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, tonight my motion is 13.4, proposed use and associated development for an artificial insemination centre, lot 1780, number 46 Gaston Road, Bullsbrook, DA 21420. Reasons for refusal are: 1, the application does not meet the objectives of the general rural zone specifically. It will limit the range of rural activities that can be undertaken within a buffer zone and prejudice the development of nearby land, and as a result of proximity to the buffer zone. It will also be detrimental to the established rural character of the area, and in effect it will restrict the range of productive rural activities. Second, the name given in the DA for the facility is inconsistent with its intended purpose and should be given a more appropriate title and have the class of business reassessed. 3, the vertical separation distances from carcass composting areas to groundwater has not been determined and should not be implemented prior to any application being supported, as stated would be done by September 2020. Number 4, the DA does not make clear if the composting of pig carcasses on site has been considered in the assessment of odour that will emanate from the facility. 5, there are existing residences in proximity to the piggery that will be impacted by noise, smell and dust that will be made worse by prevailing winds. We should note that in accordance with SPP 2.5D, it is within the remit of the City of Swan Council to make a reference to animal husbandry practices, and as these practices are submitted as part of the application, it is within our right to make an assessment of the standards being submitted by the applicant. Our right to do so is also supported in LPS 17, 10.2 ZA and ZB. Number 6, the DA has not demonstrated compliance with the same code of practice it states it will be compliant with. At a minimum, the development application does not provide for the basic needs of pigs as provided in the Model Code of Practice for the Welfare of Animals, Pigs and 3rd edition 2008. 1.1 states the basic needs of pigs are, among others, listed: the opportunity to display appropriate patterns of behaviour. It is considered that the manner in which these pigs will be kept does not provide for these pigs to undertake appropriate patterns of behaviour. Specifically, 4.1.8, where boars are kept constantly in stalls, they must be released for use for mating or exercised at least twice per week. And the emphasis here is the DA has not demonstrated how or when this is to occur. The provision for structures or yards to fulfil this standard has not been provided. Number 7, in accordance with SPP 2.5 Rural Planning, 5.7b, outdoor pens or roaming areas for animals. The provision of such pens in the plans that were submitted have not been included, and if implemented will produce additional and compounding issues related to proximity to nearby residences, noise and odour that have not been assessed in this application. The construction of more outbuildings would require a further assessment of the required buffer zone, and as well as odour, noise and dust. Number 8, the schedule for the cleaning of stalls is every 6 weeks. As provided in the DA, does not meet the standard 4.5.1 and within the Model Code of Practice for the Welfare of Animals, Pigs, 3rd edition 2008, related to the accumulation of faeces and urine, and will not provide for a clean area for the pigs to lie down. 9, the application is considered inconsistent with 5.9 rural character as provided in the Local Rural Planning Strategy 2016. And 10, the application will create land use conflict with existing uses as identified in 5.7 of Local Rural Planning Strategy 2016. Number 11.11, stable fly management measures have not been provided for in the application to demonstrate effective management of the stable fly problem, And 12, temperature extremes in the Bullsbrook area are well documented in the measures to regulate the environs and ensure that this is appropriate. Backup cooling measures as per 4.2.4 of the Model Code of Practice of the for the Welfare of Animals, PIGS 3rd edition 2008 have not been demonstrated either. 13, the distance of 60 metres from Morley Road is not an acceptable buffer from nearby roads. 14, as per SPP 2.5 rural planning and under the heading of 5.7 animal premises, A, it is considered that the rural amenity impact cannot be effectively managed. 15, due to the potential for contamination of the Ellenbrook waterway, it is considered that monitoring measures need to be implemented, such as the installation of, and prior to construction taking place, water quality monitoring bores by an independent organisation located so as to measure the water quality of groundwater entering and leaving the site, and that they'll be independently tested at set intervals. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kiley. Is there anyone against? Question, Councillor Congerton.
Thank you. My question through you, Mr Deputy Mayor, to Mr Coaten. Item 13, the distance of 60 metres from Morley Road. Is Morley Road a constructed road?
Through you, Mr Mayor, Mr Deputy Mayor, sorry. I think if you have a look on page 33, if you look at the top of along near the spine of the agenda, Morley Road is shown there. It's not a constructed road through that area.
Another question, Councillor Congerton.
Yeah, I do, thank you, because it's very hard to pick up anything on page 33 in terms of a road. And my second question is, when is the likelihood of Morley Road being constructed?
I'd probably have to take that on notice, but it's not on our long-term works programs.
Any other questions, Councillor
Yes,
Kiley?
thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just to Mr Coaten, is the requirement for it to be a constructed road, Mr Coaten, or just a road?
Mr Deputy Mayor, I think Mr Russell, it's actually his report, he's had signalled he wanted to mention something, so I might refer that question to him, if that's all right with Councillor Kiley.
Thank you. When you're ready, Mr Russell.
Bring Council's attention to the page 27 of the agenda. And condition 5 in their staff recommendation says, prior to occupational use of the proposed development, engineering drawings and specifications shall be submitted for approval for the upgrade of Morley Road between the side access and Mouchet Road South to the specifications for the City and Main Roads WA. That's for the junction to Mouchet Road South. Work shall be undertaken in accordance with the approved drawings and specifications and completed to the satisfaction of the City prior to occupational use of the development. So, in answer to the question, Mr Deputy Mayor, if this development were to be approved this evening or subsequently, then the applicant, before they can occupy and use the facility, will need to submit the plans, have those approved by us in consultation with Main Roads, and actually physically construct that section of road.
Satisfied, Councillor Kiley? Oh, Councillor McNamara, please.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. It's just a situation with regard to the actual various reasons that Councillor Richardson has actually outlined. 15. Has the staff, or do the staff agree with the information given in these reasons?
Through Mr Deputy Mayor, I wouldn't phrase it as a question of whether we agree. Those are Councillor Richardson's reasons. We haven't had opportunity to review them, but like everything else, as the Council would be well aware, if you advance a motion for refusal on grounds there, they will either live or die on test in an appeal in the State Administrative Tribunal. And the party that will advise the council as to whether or not those reasons will hold weight in an appeal will be council's solicitors. So our solicitors, I don't believe, have looked at all of this, but certainly if this motion is voted on this evening, whether those reasons are sustainable on appeal in the SAT would be the subject of a legal opinion, and ultimately will be the subject of a legal decision. So it's very hard to say yes or no whether they are agreeable or supportable in terms of the sustainability on a legal test.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. And for the question, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor McNamara.
It's in particularly with regard to reason 5 and the note that's attached to reason 5, where it says that our right to do so is also supported in LPS 17 10.2Z as ZA and as ZB. Now, I have no idea what that means, to tell you that I'm pretty honest truth. I have. So, have you actually studied this, or is this true?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, the regulations in our scheme, when it comes to matters in which council may have due regard in the assessment or determination of a development application at the tail end of, as you can see, an exhaustive list because it's ZA and ZB, basically finishes with the point: any matter, Mr. Deputy Mayor, that the council considers to be reasonable or relevant in the exercising of discretion. So you might say you have in theory, an unending and inexhaustible discretion to apply reasons to why you shall or shan't support an application. But as I've reiterated previously, whether that is taken too far in its application is a question that will be determined on judicial review.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I could keep going on because there's lots of references to codes and to rural characters and SPPs and whatever. So and the rural planning 5.7 and lots of numbers, etc. That I'm unsure whether the numbers are just there to.
Oh, I'll ask the question,
clarify me.
Councillor McNamara. Is there anyone against the motion? There is. Do you wish to debate it? There are people against the motion. Councillor Richardson, they don't wish to debate it, so I'm going to put the motion. Those in favour of Councillor Richardson's motion? I have Councillor Scanlon, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Catalano, Councillor Kiley, Councillor Zanino, Councillor Richardson and Councillor Henderson. The other councillors are against. I declare the motion carried. If we can recall the Mayor and Councillor McCulloch, and just advise the mover and the seconder that if needed you'll have to represent the council at the State Administration Tribunal.
Councillors, that takes us to adoption of those items that have not withdrawn, and currently there are items 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, 4.6, 4.7, 5.7, 5.8, 5.9 that have not been withdrawn. Can I have a move that the rest be adopted? Moved Councillor Jones, seconded Councillor Kiley. Councillors also include the confidential item 6.1. You happy to have that moved as well, Councillor Jones and Councillor Kiley? That's the creek.
Blackadder Creek.
Okay, thank you. Anyone against? Declare those carried. That takes us now to the first item, which is 4.1, the proposed housing development lot 1234 and 178 Devon Street, Woodbridge. Councillor Catalano has declared an interest. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My motion is that Council resolve to 1. Recommend refusal of the proposed housing development at lots 1, 2, 3, 4 and 178 Devon Street, Woodbridge, for the following reason. The site is reserved for parks and recreation and not intended for urban development, and the development does not meet the requirements of planning in bushfire-prone areas, SPPE 3.7.
Seconder. Seconded Councillor Scanlon. Is there anyone against? There is. Do you wish to debate it? No. In that case, put in the vote. Those in favour? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in favour. Those against are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those against were myself, Councillor Parry, Councillor Congredon, Councillor Henderson, Councillor McCulloch and Councillor Jones. Motion is carried.
Do you want to add that in? Just that correction, Mr Mayor. We have that included. You voted, so you can't. Sorry.
Can't, yep, too bad. Okay, someone. So now, while Councillor Catalano is out of the room, Councillor, we need to move item 4.2, which is the Midland Meals project. Move to Councillor Parry, seconder. Councillor Johnson, is anyone against? Declare that carried. Someone recall Catalano, please. Okay, next item is item 4.3, the civil works site remediation at lot 134, number 133, Clayton Street, Bellevue. The motion from Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, my motion is very similar to the officer's recommendation. I'm simply adding additional conditions. So if I can take it that the officer's recommendation is as read, and I'm adding in further conditions as follows. 10, to undertake the work during the winter and spring months only. 11, that the applicant ensures that any licences that are needed are obtained and that any laws and regulations that apply to this work are complied with. 2, include the environmental management plan in the council agenda as an item for noting at the council meeting following the City of Swan, notifying the applicant that the city is satisfied with the submitted environmental management plan. And then the reasons for changing the officer's recommendation are: 1, rainfall in the winter months can be expected to reduce the amount of dust blown over neighbouring houses. 2, the environmental management plan is included in the agenda to ensure that this is a public document. And 3, responsibility lies with the applicant to ensure that all laws are complied with, even if they are not included as conditions within this report.
Seconder. Second, Councillor Scanlon. Anyone against?
I have a question, Mr.
Question,
Mayor.
Councillor Parry.
Well, first thing, can I make an amendment to it, if that's okay? For point 10, can we change it from winter to spring to April to October, please? It's just basically more rainfall in regards to those months, just a little bit of tidy up there.
I actually don't agree, because I want to give them a period of 6 months. I think if it's going to take... Sorry.
That's still 6 months, yes. And the second thing as well, do you think and also question in regards to the staff, if you don't mind, point 2, the approval is valid for 12 weeks from the commencement of the development. Following expiry of this period, the development shall be not continued unless a further development approval is granted by the city. Is the city the CEO, department, or the staff? Or because if you're changing it to rainfall or to the winter months, you're probably going to have rain that will impact the remediation of it as well. So the question is, who is the city in regards to this? Is it Mr. CEO or the staff?
I'll second the amendment, Mayor.
Well, he hasn't moved on. He's asked a question.
I'm asking the question for, yeah.
The city in this case is the council, unless it's delegated for us to approve it under delegated authority.
Okay. So if we're going to change, so if that's okay with you, Mr. Mayor, can we please make that amendment to April to October, if that's okay with the mover and the seconder? And please expand point 2 as well to up to 16 weeks, please, just in case there is more rainfall in that area as well, please, Mr. Mayor.
Let's sit with the mover and the seconder. Any time now?
Just having a bit of a think, Mr Mayor. I can accept the first part, which is to just put dates in there. But the second part, to make it 16 weeks, I don't agree with, so we'd have to go through the process of amending it.
Okay, well, I need a seconder for the amendment. You're moving a full amendment? Yes. Okay, do I have a second to the amendment? Okay. Councillor Congleton? Okay. Assume there's someone against the amendment?
Yeah, I think. He's against.
Councillor Parry, can you just relay your amendment to the minutes clerk, please?
Sorry, so to change point 10, which is to change from winter and spring to April to October, and then yeah, that's fine. I'm just explain to the minute clerk. And the second one is point 2, which is this approval is valid for 16 weeks, not 12. The reason why is because it's going to rain and it's more likely going to. Yes.
Okay, so two parts. That first part is acceptable, so that becomes part of the standing motion.
Yes.
And the rest is it. Okay. Right. So, you want to debate it?
I'll only take 3 seconds. Very simply, if you're going to have rain in regards to remediation works, you're basically going to have major issues in regards to rainfall. You may have problems with redeveloping it and everything else like that. So hence why I'm extending it, because otherwise we'll have to go back to council and give greater administration problems to us as well in the future. That's the sole reason why I'm doing it, because of the fact you've moved that amendment for winter. It may increase the time of it. Therefore, we need to, expand the time as well. Thank you.
Councillor Congleton, seconder.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. In any good contract of someone producing a development has a rain condition attachment to it, and if it does, and I agree with Councillor Parry, if it does persistently pour down and you can't get a vehicle to work on site at all, you could chew up 2 or 3 weeks doing nothing.
Question, Councillor McNamara.
There's some sort of a clause in most of the motions that we pass from the point of view of development, and that is if the project is substantially started, right, then it's approved from the point of view. So this 12 weeks will be null and void from the point of view. If it is substantially started, then this 12 to 6 or 16 weeks will not come into play.
Except, Mr. Mayor, that was the period given by the contractor to do the work, 16 weeks, but I think the period of time will change that, Mr. Mayor.
Yep. Okay, Speaker against the motion? Councillor Johnson? Against the amendment, yeah.
Yeah, look, councillors, the officer's recommendation is for 12 weeks here, and it's been clear to me from listening to the community that they want this done. If it has to be done, it has to be done as quickly as possible. This may involve civil engineering earth-moving equipment, but it is not primarily a civil engineering earth-moving job. It is going to involve earth-moving and civil engineering, but the purpose of doing this in the winter and spring months, or in the months given, is to ensure that the ground is wet so that it does not produce dust. So it's not a matter of optimising the sort of moisture content of the clay or ensuring that its conditions are optimal for earth-moving equipment. Rather, the purpose is to ensure that the ground is wet and that the works take place quickly and efficiently in the shortest possible period of time. So that's my purpose. So, Mr. Mayor, I'm pretty confident that the community would want it kept to 12 weeks, and I'm happy with it being done in the winter and spring months. As April to October as listed up there. So that's my reason for opposing the amendment. The community want 12 weeks, and that's what the contractor requested. Thank you.
Speaker for the motion, Councillor Lucas.
Very briefly, Mr. Mayor, we've allowed 6 months of the year for this to happen, yet we're limiting that 26-week period to 12 weeks. And as mentioned, if we do get too much rain and it is too wet to work on site, the contractors may lose 3 to 4 weeks by allowing that extra 4 weeks, going from 12 to 16 weeks. I'm sure they want to finish it as quickly as possible, but it won't have to come back to council for another approval if we give them that slightly longer time frame. If they don't need it, they don't have to have it. But if it's given to them now, it's just like the roadworks on Marshall Road and Lord Street. It came back every couple of months because they needed extension due to inclement weather. Give them the extra 4 weeks now. They've got 6 months to do it. They'll want to get it done in 12 weeks or quicker if they can. But if there is inclement weather, let's give them the time, and it doesn't have to come back to council and get on with the job.
Speaker against the motion? Speaker for? Councillor Kiley.
Just quickly, councillors, 16 weeks will simply allow the contractors to not be hurried in cleaning up a contaminated site. It just makes sense. And if it rains, if it's not raining, they can have a week off and wait until the rain comes in that later month, possibly. And it doesn't stop them finishing the work in 12 weeks anyway.
Thank you, Councillor Kiley. Any further speakers? Councillor Parry. No, okay. Put the vote. Those in favour of the amendment? Right. Okay, those in favour? Councillor Richards, you had your hand up a minute ago. Change your mind. Well done. Okay, so that is everyone against, with the exception of Councillor Richardson, Councillor Catalano and Councillor Johnson. Okay, the amendment is carried. Now it becomes part of the motion. Now put the motion as amended. Those in favour? It's unanimous. Okay, now we move to item 4.6, which is the Responsible Authority Report, Catalyst 2, Mixed-Use Development, 31 residential dwellings and 2 commercial tenancies, associated car park, landscaping and civil works at lot number 201, number 3, Junction Parade, Midland, and a recommendation from Councillor Catalano.
Thank you. That Council resolved to recommend that the Metro Outer Joint Development Assessment Panel refuse the application for the proposed mixed-use development at lot 201, number 3, Junction Parade, Midland, for the following reason. 1. The proposed development does not meet the principle of good design relating to sustainability as described in State Planning Policy 7 and the element objectives of State Planning Policy 3.7, Residential Design Codes, Volume 2. Apartments with respect to solar and daylight access to apartments. The proposal fails to provide for an acceptable level of amenity for occupants and fails to demonstrate passive environmental design and an appropriate response to local climate and site conditions to minimise energy use and resource consumption.
Second, Councillor Kiley. Is anyone against? Did you wish to debate it? No. Put the vote. Those in favour of Councillor Scanlon, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Kiley, Councillor Catalano and Councillor Richardson. The rest are in favour. Are against, so therefore the motion is lost. Mover for the officer's recommendation. Moved Councillor McCulloch, seconded Councillor Congdon. Is anyone against? There isn't. There is. No. Put in favour. Those in favour? Are all in favour with the exception of Councillor Scanlon, Johnson, Catalano, Kiley and Richardson. Okay, so I go back. I'm moving the officer's recommendation. Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Okay, everybody with the exception of Councillor Scanlon, Johnson, Kiley, Catalano and Richardson who are against. So therefore the officer's recommendation is carried. Now move to item 4.7, which is the proposed hop farm and brewery at lot 301, number 590, Great Northern Highway, Herne Hill. Councillor Kiley.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillors, I'll just move to point 25 in the overall conditions for approval, and take the rest as given it as read. My amendment to the overall officer's report would be that the roof and the building shall, 1, be engineered to be capable of supporting the installation of a solar panel array equal to 2/3 of the roof area, and 2, be clad in a material that is considered reflective and not of a dark colour to the satisfaction of the Chief Executive Officer. The reason for the change, I think I've given that to Ms Dwyer, and I'm not sure if she's got it up yet. To add requirements to the design to improve energy efficiency.
Seconder? Councillor Scanlon. Is there anyone against? Question, Councillor Anderson.
Just to engineering staff, would a roof normally be engineered to a standard to be able to hold the very light solar panels?
Over with it. Okay. Right, was there anyone against? There isn't. We'll declare it carried. Now we move to item 5.7, which is a proposed Gylfie entrance signage. Councillor Scanlon.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Got myself together now. So my proposed motion is that Council resolve to 1, endorse the Guildford entry sign project, subject to submitting the design to an independent graphic designer to alter the font and improve the visual appeal, although noting that the design of the woggle and crest should remain unchanged. Submit the modified design for final approvals from relevant bodies. Proceed with installation once final approvals are received. And record the reason for the changing the staff recommendation is to enable an independent expert review of the design.
Seconder? Question, Councillor Congleton.
I'd appreciate if you could just tell me, Councillor Scanlon, the approvals from the relevant bodies. Just tell me who the relevant bodies are, please.
I'd like to refer that question to Mr Coton.
They're the ones outlined in the report.
Then I'll ask through you, Mr Mayor, to the CEO via Councillor Scanlon, to you, Mr Coton. Are there any others other than in the report that it needs to be referred to?
No.
Thank you.
Okay, ask again. Do I have a seconder? No? No seconder. The motion fails. I move the officer's recommendation. Move to Councillor Johnson. Seconder. Councillor Richardson. Is there anyone against? We'll declare that carried. Now move to item 5.8, which is the second access road to Shady Hills Estate in Bullsbrook. Councillor McCulloch.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Item 5.8, the second access road to Shady Hills Estate, that the Council resolve to 1, note the advice received from the independent bushfire consultants to prioritise the provision of a second evacuation route to reduce the bushfire risk to the Shady Hills development. 2, review the costs through detailed design investigation for the construction of the second access road to Shady Hills Estate between Large Road and Clarkson Road. 3, authorise the CEO to enter into a developer agreement with the landowners of Lot 301 Stock Road and 302 Large Road landowners for the ceding of land free of cost and the recovery of 43% of all cost associated with ceding of land, design and construction of the second access road. Conditional upon A, local structure plan number 11 being maintained and not allowed to lapse or cancelled, and or B, the subdivision of the land to be approved and enacted, or, in the absence of 3A or 3B, inclusion of a requirement to have a caveat or an alternative mechanism placed over the said land to ensure that the owner will not sell, transfer, mortgage, lease, charge, assign or otherwise dispose of or encumber Lot 301 Stock Road and Lot 302 Large Road, or any part or interest in the lots without the city's prior written consent. 4, write to the Minister of Transport and Planning and also member of Swan Hills to secure 2/3 contribution to the balance of construction costs after having deducted the developer's agreed contributions from the total cost of the construction of the second access road. 5, the actions in paragraph 3 and paragraph 4 can be taken concurrently and as soon as possible to take advantage of the lead up to the March WA state election. 6, authorise the CEO to consider taking a loan payable over 10 years with the prevailing interest rate plus government guarantee fee to pre-fund all costs associated with the ceding of land, design and construction of the second access road, only if the following conditions have been met. 3A, the agreement of the landowners of Lot 301 Stock Road and Lot 302 Large Road to the agreement described in Resolution 3 above, and B, the agreement of the State Government to fund 2/3 of the balance of the project as described in Resolution 3 above. The reasons for the motion, and to advise 7, the landowners accordingly. The reason is to note the significance of the secondary access road to Shady Hills for community safety, to initiate, process and clarify the order for steps to be taken by city staff, and to avoid risks for ratepayers being the ones to fund the total cost of the second access road, which will possibly be in excess of $5 million.
Seconder.
Question.
Councillor Jones. Question, Councillor Coley.
Mayor, I wondered if I could move that we suspend standing orders just so I could hear the difference from each mover of the alternative motions to understand the difference. There's quite a lot of information in both. Just would like to hear from both Councillor Catalano and McCulloch as to what the differences might be.
Over the next page, there's the other one. It's not hard to work out.
Excuse me, Mr Mayor, if I may, I wonder if city staff can maybe just speak to that to clarify.
Yeah, that would be very helpful, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor McCulloch.
Okay, Mr van der Lind.
Mr Mayor, through you, the major difference between Councillor Catalano's motion and that of Councillor McCulloch is basically that in Councillor McCulloch's motion there's an additional condition and which is contained in Resolution 3C. So in Councillor Catalano's motion, it is indicated that the agreement is subject to the structure plan and the associated subdivision being enacted. What Councillor McCulloch have added to that is that in the absence of the structure plan or the subdivision, a caveat be placed over those properties so that it cannot be sold until such time as that 43% contribution is paid or arrangements in that regard is made. So basically the difference is that Councillor McCulloch's cover the instance that the landowners do not go ahead with the structure plan and subdivision.
There you go. So I've got a mover and a seconder. Is anyone against?
Amendment, please.
I'll hear amendment, yes.
Thank you. So where it says in 3A, local structure plan number 11 being maintained and not allowed to lapse or cancelled, after that is got and or. Now, if you have and or, it means that that alone can stand because it's an or. So or A, which is that the structure plan is not allowed to lapse, or B, the subdivision of the land is approved and enacted, or C, we talked about the caveat. So the point is that I'd like to move an amendment that A, in the clause A, 3A, that the word or is removed so that local structure plan and the subdivision are both conditional. And can I go on to another amendment?
Well, can you just clarify what you want to do here first? You want to remove
the word or after 3A, the clause 3A. So it just reads, and the subdivision of the land to be approved and enacted in B.
Seconded. Councillor Cole, the removal of the word
or.
Well,
just removal of the word or, so that you've got both the local structure plan and the subdivision.
Well, if I'd just like to point out, that actually makes it the same as yours because we already have a structure plan approved by the WAPC. That's
Correct.
already been approved.
Correct.
And all the way along, the conditions were promoted to the public that the city would enter into an agreement with the landowner once the structure plan had been approved by the WAPC. The subdivision plan could be years away.
Can I interrupt? I mean, we're not getting into debate. That's my. That's what I would like to do.
By
That's
doing
the
that,
amendment
you're
I'd
actually
like
now
to
bringing
make.
subdivision back into the motion.
I'm
as a condition.
very aware of the fact that that's the difference, and that's why I'm suggesting the amendment.
Well-
And I've got another one as well.
We'll make it the same.
The other
Hang on,
amendment.
we'll deal with this one first.
Okay, all right.
Mover and a seconder. Is that okay with you?
Just going to refer it to Ms Albrecht because I think it just covers just clauses as per it sits to make sure that we are watertight.
Mr Vanderlyn's probably better.
Mr. Mayor, if I may answer that. I think if we read the fact that we've got condition 3C in there, and if I can read it, in the absence of 3A or 3B, there's the need for the inclusion of this requirement in 3. So from that perspective, it doesn't matter if that word or is removed.
Councillors?
Let's just leave it as it is because it doesn't matter.
So the amendment's in or out? That's all I need to know. No. No? Okay, that's not acceptable then. For some reason, councillors, I'm going to have to move.
Okay.
We're going to have to, I've got to debate it. I've got to move on Councillor Catalano's amendment. Councillor Cole is the seconder.
Thank you.
The movers and the seconder are against, so we're going to have to debate it. Councillor Catalano.
Thank you. When you have three separate things and you want them all together, you say and. If you want either this or either that or something else, you say or. The thing is that the structure plan, we know, has been approved. It was approved in 2014, which was before the current state planning policy guidelines on areas of extreme fire risk. So the point is the structure plan, is the subdivision for this structure plan likely to be approved? Now, the thing is that if it's not likely to be approved, are we actually going to get the contribution from the landowner? I'm looking at it from the point of view of we do have to look at ratepayers' funds here. It's going to be an expensive road. It is effectively on the edge of a hill through granite rock. It's a very expensive road, and that's the other amendment I want to make later on. But the thing is that this is all structured in, this particular motion is structured in a way that, well, don't worry about it, it's expensive, but we're going to get the money back from the landowner because the structure plan's been approved. But the fact is the subdivision hasn't been approved. And from what I could tell, it's unlikely to be approved because it's extreme fire hazard there. And the structure plan was approved prior to the current state planning policy on fire areas of extreme subdivision and areas of extreme fire risk. So I'm very concerned that in fact this subdivision is never going to take place, and in fact what we're going to end up with is the City of Swan, even if it gets its contribution from $2 million from the state government, even if it does, that we're going to end up paying the full whack of the landowner portion as well as the part that we've agreed to, simply because that land can't be subdivided. And I'm sure that we wouldn't expect that the developers would be paying if they can't actually subdivide. And it's all very well ceding land and putting a caveat over it, but if that land is never going to be subdivided, is it actually worth anything? So, I mean, this is what I'm saying. If we have the provision of and, the local structure plan, and the subdivision, then City of Swan ratepayers know that they will get their money as agreed from the landowners. This is what I'm saying. So it's not either the structure plan or the subdivision. It's the structure plan and the subdivision, which is yet to be approved, which is yet to be put before WAPC, and which I have serious doubts will ever be approved, given the nature of that land and the fire risk. Thank you.
Seconder?
Thank you, Mayor. I will support the change of the removal of one simple word, but it does make a big difference in my view. When, councillors, we're writing to the Minister, and you look at point 4, when we're writing to the Minister for Transport and Planning and member for Swan Hills to secure 2/3 contribution, we want to be sure that we have conditions placed on this, the money. We want to make sure that just having the word and removing or will put 2 conditions on making sure this goes ahead. So when we go to the members and ask for money, we'll basically be saying it's basically in the bag before we ask for the money, rather than just either or of one of those. So it's tightening up what we do and ensuring that basically it's going ahead. There's no problem before we go to the Minister and so forth asking for money. Thank you.
Speaker against the amendment? Well, I might rise on this one. I think Councillor Catalano is very, very confused here. The Shady Hills development was approved by the WA Planning Commission in 2006. The structure plan for this particular development was approved by the WA Planning Commission in 2020. So it wasn't some time ago. Because, Councillor, if you recall, we requested a report on the bushfire-related issues on this development to justify the road, which we got. So, Mr Vanden can correct me, or Mr Russell, that the road abutting Great Northern Highway and Leighs Road is designated urban. Am I correct? But it's rural at the top of the hill. So this road has been long designated, but what's happened here is Councillor Catalano has got confused with permission and approvals by the WA Planning Commission. But the structure plan was always said to determine the negotiations we would have with the landowner, and we waited for some significant time to that happen to enter those negotiations, and the owners have been amicable to agree to that. So remember, councillors, we waited for the structure plan to enter an agreement to fund this road. Thank you.
Mr Mayor.
Question.
Through you to the planning staff. Can a structure plan lapse?
Mr Russell.
Very simply, Mr Mayor, in the past, no, it couldn't, but the Commission, under new regulations, is now mindful to issue approvals that are time limited, nominally for usually between 5 and 10 years.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Speaker for the amendment. Speaker against?
Mr Mayor, I have another
Question?
Just my question is to you, Mr Mayor, and I'm a little concerned about the discussion around Councillor Catalano's amendment, because her amendment is regarding the English language and the meaning of semicolon and /or. Her amendment is simply for clarification. I don't believe she's confused about the structure plan and the subdivision.
Well, that was the point of her debate, so I was correcting her errors. So, any further speakers against the amendment? Speaker for the amendment. Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, here's my take on it, councillors. Because it is possible for a structure plan to lapse, and as Mr Russell said, they can lapse, a lapsing clause, no doubt, has been included in this one between 5 to 10 years. I don't know if we actually know what the lapsing on this particular one is, but it can lapse, so therefore, potentially, it could lapse. And if we want to be certain that we've got both a local structure plan and a subdivision, then we need to remove the word or. It's really that simple, because otherwise we could end up with a subdivision without a structure plan, or a structure plan without a subdivision. So it's quite clear that we want both, so therefore we need to remove the word or. Thank you.
Speaker against the amendment, Councillor Lucas.
I think we're getting too pedantic. If you read 3A, it says the local structure plan number 11 being maintained and not allowed to lapse, so we don't have to worry about that, or cancelled, and or B, the subdivision of the land to be approved and enacted, or, and this is the critical point, C, in the absence of 3A or 3B, not and or, It's or. So Section C covers both situations, and I think we've wasted enough time on this, Mr Mayor. We're getting over-involved in the English language.
I agree.
And we need to move on. Thank you.
Okay. Have you got anything to say to close, Councillor?
Yes, I do. You know, it's the English language is very important when you're talking about these kind of clauses and a hell of a lot of ratepayers' money. It's incredibly important. You know, the original structure plan was approved in 2014. It was brought back for an amendment in 2018, and in 2020 it may have been approved. But the original structure plan dates back to 2014. Make no mistake about that. I have read a report back to the meeting of 2018. Okay. The point is, so even if we end up with a caveat, great. What's good's a caveat, right, over land that is effectively not going to realise the, $3 million outstanding after the state government puts in their $2 million, if they do. But hey, that's only if the road is going to be valued at $5 million, which is more than likely, as the officer's report says, is going to be more, because it's like that. That's the gradient. And also, it happens to be granite. So I'm just doing this to try and protect the ratepayers' funds so that we end up with a structure plan and a subdivision so that we're going to get the likelihood of getting that $2 million as this whole motion puts to council. Thank you.
Thank you. Those in favour of the amendment? Councillors Scanlon, Johnson, Kiley, Catalano and Richardson. The rest are against. It fails. Do you have another amendment?
Yes, I do.
Well, let's hear it.
The other amendment is that council, and this is point 5D or clause 5D of my motion, and that we've got that this is now after we've done the review of the costings, the agreement with the landowners. We've got the state government on board. So then this is about authorising the CEO to take out a loan. We've got the agreement, so we've got to have the agreement, we've got to have the agreement with the landowner, we've got to have the agreement with the state government. But I also, in my clause, in my motion, say that we need a clause in there that says that council has endorsed the reviewed costings, so we know how much this road is going to cost, of the second access road, and the allocation of costs between the landowners, the state government and the city before the CEO is authorised to go and get the mortgage, the loan.
So where does that go into?
That goes in at 6C.
Okay, can you actually give us the amendment to the motion? Because
the amendment
you're half
is
debating
that at number 6, that we insert at 6C, council has endorsed the reviewed costings of the second access road and the allocation of costs between the landowners, the state government and the city.
So basically you want to do is a report come to back to council before we go ahead with it.
Exactly.
That would have been nice if you just moved that.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillors, is that applicable? Happy with the move and the seconder? Okay, now it becomes part of the motion. Okay, those in favour?
Question, Mr Mayor.
Further question?
Yeah. So my question relates to the entire motion here. Are we still contributing $950,000 as a result of this motion?
Well, that would depend because Councillor Catalano just added a clause in that now comes back to council before we proceed with the project.
I understand that, but assuming it did, based on what's written here, we're still making a contribution, isn't it? Because the landowner pays 43% of the costs and then the state government provides 2/3 of the balance, is my understanding. So there's still an amount to be paid by the city. Is that right?
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Those in favour? It's carried. The only objector is Councillor Johnson. Councillors, now we move to item 5.9, which is the State Equestrian Centre Future Management Option, and Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Mayor and Councillors. I move that Council resolve 2. 1. The City of Swan recognise that the equestrian facility in Brigadoon is an integral part of equestrian activity in Brigadoon, the Swan Valley, Upper Swan, Bullsbrook and Gidgegannup, and provides a support base more widely. 2. Council accepts that the cost of maintaining the facility cannot be sustained by the sport and the City's budget. 3. That the City contributes in its budget up to $180,000 per annum for the next 3 years to assist in general operations. 4. The City to add refurbishment costs of the buildings and facilities to the advocacy list, seeking financial support from state and federal government. Full stop. The City to review progress annually and to report progress to Council. Should support not become available within 3 years, the Council to consider ceding to the Crown, investing in the state government for ongoing management, and 5. The City of Swan to budget for buildings and ground facilities insurance in the same way as it does for all other assets that it owns. The reasons for changing the staff recommendations are as follows. 1. To allow time for state and federal governments to provide funding for urgent works needed to sustain the facility in the long term. 2. To note that the City of Swan does not have the resources to maintain the facility. Depreciation and operating costs for a facility utilised more widely than residents within the city ratepayer capture area.
Seconder. Councillor Zanino. Is there anyone against?
Amendment?
See your amendment.
On point 3, just take out up to. So it would be a contribution of 180,000.
Acceptable to the mover and the seconder. Becomes part of the motion. Now, those against the motion, there is. You obviously wish to debate it. Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Councillors. Councillors, for the last bit over 2 years, I've been working with the State Equestrian Centre to progress the work needed to get to a point where a new lease could be put together with the City of Swan and the group. Given that the last 20 years the lease has been a peppercorn lease, but it's been the kind of lease that clearly didn't envisage the need for massive funds to be paid by the group, and at the time the City probably recognised that it was already starting to decline, and they didn't want to be part of that. And more importantly, the City even attempted to sell the facility back in about 2000, I think it was. The CEO might correct me if I'm wrong. So the point is that the EWA took on the facility to be able to maintain and keep the facility going for the community. Its annual costs of massive insurance and costs of rates has raised their operating costs as well, and that's a significant issue to be dealt with in a renewed lease. Importantly, though, I want to cover some of the issues associated with the sport. We have hundreds and hundreds of usually younger people, but of course all ages, that undertake equestrian sport activity. And they have been doing so for years and years and years, mainly women, by the way, very few boys and men in equestrian. And I'll make a point that most of them are just, not too many of them have parents with big properties to run horses on, and for them it's their passion and their life, a little bit like someone who might play cricket at the local cricket club, or footy at the local footy club. And the point is that this is a sporting facility in the same way that our other very expensive sporting facilities exist, such as what we have in Ellenbrook. I think we spent $22 million of state, federal and local dollars just on that facility alone. So each year it's probably costing us 5%, so probably costing us over $1 million a year just in depreciation for that facility alone, let alone all the others that we have. So in terms of contribution to the sport and to the general community, this amount is a small amount. It gives us an opportunity to go after state and federal funds, which has not been actively pursued under advocacy. Importantly, we need to do that. So this is a program to undertake that over the next 3 years. And I think we need to ensure that every opportunity is given for us to retain the facility, but more importantly that we support active sport in our community, not just footy, not just soccer, not just the rest, cricket, etc., that we support broadly all areas. To cover the point about the general cost associated with running the place, I think that amount of $180,000 is a small amount compared to what we already spend on other facilities. In regard to more broadly in the community, we see, I think, some use of the facility externally. We can argue the same about our libraries. We know that Mundaring residents love using our libraries, so that's an external expense for our libraries. So we can't nail it down specifically to just us, although the greater majority are Swan rural residents. I think I've covered the key points, Mayor, and be keen to hear debate. Thank you.
Councillor Zanino is the seconder.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, I rise to support my fellow ward councillor, and in doing so I'd like to say that the City of Swan is, as we all know, the largest local authority geographically in the Perth metropolitan area, and over 70% of the City of Swan is rural. The State Equestrian Centre is an important asset to the city and our community, and WA's premier equestrian facility. We're very fortunate this facility was built and paid for by a developer and gifted to the city. If this had not happened, given the huge amount of interest in the equestrian sports today, the City of Swan would have to possibly foot the bill and provide a facility at a cost of millions of dollars at today's costs. Now, the range of activities at the State Equestrian Centre is very diverse, from elite sport to pony clubs, polo, polocross, western and riding develops abilities programs. Its events attract people from all over the state. It's not just people, local people, providing significant economic spin-offs to local businesses in the City of Swan, predominantly in the Swan Valley and Bullsbrook. The key features here, councillors, is the facility caters for families and supporting young riders. And in these times, the council has a duty of care to ensure recreational facilities exist and are well maintained for the physical, social and mental health of our community. The funds requested is not excessive, and we have a responsibility to support both our urban and rural communities' recreational needs. Now is not the time to pull back on supporting recreation that will impact on many families, residents, volunteers and equestrian groups. Providing financial insurance and maintenance support
is in line with our role, just as we provide libraries, aquatic and recreational centres. The marketing and economic spin-off is significant, as I stated, and according to a 2016 report commissioned, Equestrian brings more than $1.1 billion to the economy. This same report states that 75% of members are involved in the sport more than 4 times per week, showing the level of commitment. And the data shows that more than 9,000 active volunteers contributing almost 50,000 volunteer hours in the sport in a typical week. Absolutely, the city needs to continue to work with the State Equestrian Centre and the state government to ensure a sustainable model, but in the meantime, the city needs to support this funding request. To put this in perspective, according to the last year's annual report, the city spent 21.7% of its budget on recreation and culture, which equates to approximately $38.6 million. The State Equestrian Centre is requesting $178,720, or to round it off, as Councillor Henderson has, $180,000, which represents 0.5 round figures, or to be exact, 0.46% of this total budget. Councillors, please consider the big picture and this facility's strategic importance to the City of Swan, and not just to the equestrian fraternity, but also to the other families and businesses that will all be affected if this facility fails. And please support this funding request. Thank you.
Okay. I want to ask a question here. Councillor Henderson, you might be able to clarify this. The EWA has requested just over $178,000 per annum for operating costs, which include insurance, rates and maintenance. Yet your motion asks for $180,000 per annum over the next 3 years for general maintenance, plus the insurance cost.
$180,000 each year.
Each year, that's correct. But the request that they've made includes insurance, rates and maintenance. You also asking for $180,000 plus insurance. If memory, that insurance is somewhere in the tune of 11 or somewhere around there, Brenham. Mr. Coaten?
Well, I think they pay about $85,000 for the insurance.
So
I think it's the rates. It's about $11,000.
So it's an extra $85,000 on top of that for insurance.
No, that's all included. It says $180,000 per annum for the next 3 years. It says general operations. That includes the insurance. Whilst the insurance issue, insurance issue in point 5 is to be resolved, obviously, and that's not been done yet. However, that is included currently in the 180,000 figure. But I'm sure if you think that we need to deal with that, well, I'm happy to deal with it, but we don't have a number, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. CEO.
I'm concerned about the third dot point. What this is telling me and the executive staff is that on the 1st of July next year, we could get an invoice from the EWA for $180,000 and Miss Lay will have to pay it straight away. Where's the accountability? What are we paying it for? That's what the recommendation is, Mr. Mayor. Sorry. Where's the accountability? Come on, councillors, you're using ratepayers' money, and this is ratepayers' money, and it's not going on the draft budget. This is on the budget. You're paying this money out to this group. Where's the accountability? You're going to move the motion. You're going to be accountable for it, not the staff.
Mayor, if you may, through you, I'd like some advice from staff on moving an amendment to build in some accountability into that motion. Could I seek that, please, and seek some wording in terms of what the $180,000 would be spent on? I think that is that the point that needs to be clarified, Mr. CEO.
I would say so.
I would suggest so, councillor. Because there's no accountability there at the moment.
So,
Well, if I could suspend standing orders or something to get some wording that
perhaps
might be an
Ms.
appropriate
Lane
amendment.
might be able to assist us, perhaps, if she's got any thoughts on that.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I would recommend that, I believe in their attachment, they've itemised what the operating costs are that they're requesting the $180,000 contribution for, and that council could also consider putting in an acquittal process to ensure that those funds have been expended in accordance with council's intent.
I so move, Mayor, if you want to have somebody word it, that we have an acquittal process in, I don't know where you'd like to put it.
Should be part of 3.
Part of 3, good idea. Acquittal, build in an acquittal process and spend the monies as per was the intention on Ms. Lay. What page was that, or what page should we reference?
I have the information in front of me from Mr Coton. It includes insurance, maintenance of general purpose field, mowing Swanfields grounds, facility music licence, and City of Swan rates.
Okay, so we're giving the money to pay rates back to us.
I have a question, Mr Mayor.
Question, Councillor Congerton.
We always come undone, Mr Mayor, when we run things on the fly. Is it possible to have this item deferred
Anything's possible, Councillor.
and therefore it then could go back to the officers and the councillor in this motion to get it right before it comes back to council?
Could I just deal with my amendment first,
I was
Mayor?
about
Thank
to
you.
say that, well, at the moment, that's possible. We've got an amendment from Councillor Kiley. A question from Councillor Richardson.
From staff or find out from the budget what the facility music licence cost is?
You got it listed there?
So I think the question was, what's the facility music licence for?
No,
the cost is $7,500.
Councillor Johnson, you got a question. Sorry, I missed you before.
Yeah, my question really is about the acquittal process. So will those acquittals be transparent to council? Will we be able to see what the acquittals are? Or is it just for staff?
Well, as with all these things, that's what you should be asking for. You should be asking that you receive an account and then we pay it accordingly on the receipt of that account, not just give someone money. Councillor?
Through you, Mayor, I haven't finalised my amendment.
Yeah, we just got those questions out of the way. So, what's your amendment?
That the acquittal process be made available to councillors on request as well.
Seconded to the amendment? No? Yes? No? Anyone? Well, actually, I should ask, is it acceptable to you as the mover and Councillor Zanino as the seconder? Sorry about the councillors. Sign? Okay. So now it becomes part of the substantive motion. Okay. So now we had speakers against the motion. Councillor Lucas.
Thank you. I listened very carefully to the deputation last week and I made a few notes, and I noted one thing that struck me was that they only charge their senior members less than $430 a year membership, yet $260,000+ of their income is spent on staff salary. I think I'll be foreshadowing the staff's recommendation, which will be to write to the Minister of Sport and Recreation, propose that the lots concerned be ceded to the Crown and vested in the state government for ongoing management. And the reason I do that is in the financial implication. So although the State Equestrian Centre has requested $180,000 for ongoing issues over the next 3 budgets, it's also asked the City for another $2.5 million in capital investment over the next 2 to 3 years. It's not part of this motion, but you can be sure they'll come back. And I'll read from the report now under the financial implications. Whilst EWA has requested a specific contribution at this time, there is a risk that the City will be expected to provide ongoing capital contributions over time. The EWA has estimated that $4.5 million of capital investment and $9.6 million of operating maintenance costs is required over the next 20 years, and I know that's a longer time frame, which the City considers conservative based on the findings of the AMP. And in addition, another $14 million of redevelopment is proposed. And the bottom, the last sentence under the financial implication is there is no justification for the City to financially support a state-level facility. It's one of the reasons that we got rid of the velodrome in Midvale. It was just sucking the lifeblood out of our ratepayers. I was advised last week there are 439 members. Those members, as I've heard tonight during debate and was confirmed last week, that most of them adjust their horses. Usually then they have to pay an adjustment fee, they have to buy feed, they have to have some type of usually powerful V6 or V8 four-wheel drive to tow their horse float, yet they only pay $429 in membership fees. So I think those users of the facility first of all have to step up to the plate and start paying a lot more in membership fees to make it more sustainable and stop asking the City for more finance. And when you compare it to libraries or public swimming pools or our rec centres, we have almost 2,000 people a day go through the Swan Active Beach Borough. I'm not sure the numbers for Midland and Balladura, but when you're comparing those numbers to a total membership of 439 who might attend a couple of times a week, it's just not comparing the right information and getting the best value for our ratepayers. So I can't support this motion. I think we've been subsidising for too long a lot of these types of small number sports to the detriment of the majority of our ratepayers. So I can't support the motion. And as I said, I'll be foreshadowing the officer's recommendation to try and offload that facility to the state government, who should take it on because it is a state facility. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Liz, Speaker for the motion.
Question, Mr Mayor.
Question.
May I ask, through you to the staff, how much did we contribute this year?
Mr Coaten.
We generally don't contribute anything, though in this year there was an amount for the water chemical, and I can't remember the exact amount. I would think it was in the order of $220,000 or $250,000, but my understanding is we haven't actually paid that as yet.
This is a new request then? So
yes, yeah.
Speaker against the motion, Councillor Lucas, if you could turn your microphone off, thanks. Speaker against. Speaker for. Councillor Kiley.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. We have the support of Councillor Henderson and Councillor Zanino on this issue. They are ward councillors, and I encourage you to support them on this. They're the councillors who are most in touch with the issues related to both the ownership of horses and the participants in the State Equestrian Centre, and have had many years of experience in dealing with these people, these participants in equestrian events. And I encourage you at some stage to go out to the Equestrian Centre on the weekend and see the variety of activity, albeit horse activities, that are taking place. There's also food vendors out there. You can get a meal. There's local businesses displaying their wares, and most of those in terms of equestrian equipment, because we do have a number of equestrian shops in the city of Swan who benefit from this. So there's businesses that benefit from this, and Councillor Lucas pointed out himself that we have people who have to own a large vehicle and have to spend money on fuel, but that's not all they spend on. They go into the Swan Valley and they visit from far away, and they spend money on wine, they spend money on accommodation, And bear in mind too, the money that we're actually giving, some of this money, I think it's $11,500 that we're giving to the State Equestrian Centre, comes straight back in rates anyway. So let's just cut that down to below $170,000. So these people are spending money in the Swan Valley. They are, to a greater extent, the lifeblood of the Swan Valley. If you drive around the Swan Valley outside of the State Equestrian Centre, you see properties where people are keeping horses. They are on those properties and paying quite a lot of rates to the City of Swan as well. They are paying rates on those larger properties so that they can actually keep a horse. So not only are they paying their $430 membership, they're paying large amounts of rates to the City of Swan already they want to keep a horse on that property. Equestrian events and keeping of horses in the Swan Valley and the City of Swan enrich our lives generally, because we have children and daughters and sons who want to drive around and see horses in the area, and it's of great excitement for somebody visiting the area as a tourist or whatever to drive through the valley and see horses in yards and being cared for. And it is not about just a sport for these people, it is a lifestyle. Bear in mind it's a lifestyle. They put everything into this. When you've got a horse, it becomes the life. And these people, as I said, pay rates, they pay their horse feed, they invest in the valley, they invest in us as a council, they pay their rates on those larger properties. So I think they add a lot to the lifeblood and enrich our lifestyle by having horses and horse events in the area. I wouldn't like to see the facility handed over to the state government. This $180,000 is not going to solve the State Equestrian Centre's problems. It's, as you'll see in point 4, we've still got to go out and put it on the advocacy list. And as Councillor Henderson and Councillor Zanino rightly pointed out, this is not a large amount of money when you compare what we pay for other facility upgrades. And Mr Coaten himself said that what have we put into the facility in this year? We've put nothing. I'm just confirming that. Is that correct, Jim?
Yes, actually, I can give you an update on that. My construction and maintenance manager's playing along at home, and he's just texted me and said there's $238,000 on the budget and nothing has been spent to date.
There we go. Nothing has been spent to date. It's on the budget, but nothing is spent. So this money, $180,000, actually is less than the $238,000 that we've approved previously. So I think this is very prudent of us, and we'll actually be saving money, some $60,000, close to $60,000, by actually just approving the 180. So we've already made a savings. We're already ahead. So thanks for that, Jim, and thanks to your staff for texting you at home. So, councillors,
Point of clarification, Mr Mayor.
I'll just finish there. Thank you, and I encourage you to vote for this motion.
I think so. I know where you're going to go. The money Mr Coates talked about still has to be paid, doesn't it, Jim? Because that's paying a bill.
That's correct.
So
yeah, that's right. That was for the motion that council adopted to provide money for the water chemical treatment, for the dust suppression.
So there's no saving. Okay. Speaker against motion.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Question.
For the purpose of just understanding how much people are contributing towards their sport, how much does it cost to adjust a horse for a year? Speaking as someone who knows nothing about this at all.
It depends on the facility.
It depends on the horse and what it's eating. But is there an approximate cost?
Depending on the
Oh, the cost, say you got a horse and you want to adjust it for a year, what would that cost, approximately?
Depends on the agreement you have with the landowner. It could be $50 a week, could be depending on the average facility.
Must be a ballpark number, $50 to $100 a week. All right, let's multiply that up. I'll take that as an answer.
Question, Councillor Richardson.
To Mr Coaten, the dust suppression that I think we voted on, that $250,000 for the water, when would that be needed to be done again, or?
It's in this year's budget, so yeah, I don't have details of timing.
So again, the same for next year, or?
My recollection is that it was just a one-off for this year.
But then when would it need to be done again?
I'd have to take that on notice. It was in the original report, but I can't remember what it was. I think it was an ongoing treatment that was recommended a couple of times, but they'd asked for the one-off payment for the first one, and then second treatments I think didn't have to be as substantial and expensive, but I'm not 100% sure of that.
Would it be likely that we're going to be asked again for that lesser contribution?
I can't really determine what they may or may not ask for. I guess what is in front of you is what they have asked for.
Councillor Congleton.
Procedurally, Mr Mayor, with your assistance, how do we get to defer this item tonight to allow a non-on-the-fly?
You have to defeat the motion on the floor first, Councillor.
Right.
Is that correct, Ms Albright? We can't move that we defer it, given it...
Through you, Mr Mayor, the CEO is correct. Unless the mover and seconder wish to withdraw the motion, it has to be defeated for a deferral to be moved.
Okay. Move and a seconder.
And then you've got a foreshadow motion.
I'm happy to... Mr Mayor, I'm happy to withdraw it, defer it and bring it back to council.
Okay.
But it's up to the mover.
Yeah, look, I'm happy too. I think we should get this right, as Councillor Congleton suggests. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, so...
Then you've got a motion from Councillor Deputy Mayor. Mr Mayor, he has to withdraw his as well.
And likewise for you, Councillor Lucas. Well, technically we haven't defeated.
Well, I foreshadowed the officer's recommendation. I was very strong in my debate that I don't believe we should be putting any more money in, but I will accede to the mood of the council to get more information, but does not mean I'll be supporting it when it comes back, Mr Mayor.
Okay. So I'll take that as a motion.
Correct.
Okay. Councillor Congleton is moving that the motion be deferred. It's moved and a second agreed. Can I have a second to that happen? Councillor Parry. Is there anyone against that? So it's now deferred. Okay. Now move to part C. And the first one is C1.1, Councillor Parry.
I'll withdraw C1.1, please, Mr Mayor.
Drawn.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings you then to C1.2, which is also you.
Thank you. I'll explain why. I'll tell you later. My motion is that Council resolve to 1. Request the CEO to write to the Minister of Transport to request the upgrading of street lighting along Drumpillia Drive as a priority. 2. Request Metronet to ensure that the impact of the Morley-Ellenbrook line on the movement corridors of fauna in and out of Whiteman Park is considered in the design stage of the project. Reason for this motion: the request of the Minister of Transport and Metronet are required in the interest of the safety of motorists who are at high risk of road accidents resulting from fauna crossing busy urbanised roads along the Whiteman Park corridor.
Seconder, Councillor Congleton. Is there anyone against? Okay, carried. Takes us down to C1.3, Councillor Henderson, review of Camp Persick Road speed limit.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council resolve to 1. Right to Main Roads, Western Australia, MRWA, requesting that in undertaking a review of their proposed speed limit reduction on Camp Persick Road, they seek a comment from local residents that use Camp Persick Road on any proposed speed variation prior to making any change. B. Review any intersection for improvements that may need a speed reduction to be imposed and propose any remedial action so as to be able to retain the existing speed limit. And C. Provide the following to the City of Swan. 1. Appropriate data. And 2. Any reasoning that justifies a proposed speed variation for distribution to the community and determination. 2. Request that MRWA not proceed with any speed limit change to Camp Persick Road until community consultation has been undertaken and given due consideration by the Council. Reason for the motion: City officers have recommended a speed reduction to Main Roads WA. Council is yet to determine the matter.
Seconder. Councillor Kiley. Is there anyone against? There is. Wish to debate it? Okay. Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. One of the things I wanted to discuss in terms of the officer's comment was the memorandum that was sent to councillors on the 19th of October. And it says that no concerns were raised by councillors to staff about the proposal. When I read it initially, it says quite clearly, however, a speed review has been conducted. Main Roads had recommended a reduction of speed from 80 to 70 on Campbellswick Road to ensure consistency across the local road. Main Road has conditioned this change on the application of this limit to Oakover Road also. Staff recommend concurrence with this proposal. Now, if that then went on to say if anyone had any problems with that, please contact staff. But in the last paragraph, it's almost a throwaway line and I'll say outright, I didn't pick up on it. If you have any concerns with the proposal, please contact staff prior to a date. My point is that clearly I already had the concerns, and I felt that the matter should be dealt with as public consultation in the usual manner. So staff took it that review meant agree, and frankly the community have come out and said, well, no, we don't agree, very, very, very loudly. In Facebook in particular, we've seen lots of people complaining about the lack of consultation in terms of the process. So I'm just simply saying that the community want to have input to this. They might not like the ultimate result, but they want to have some input, and they should be heard, and that's fundamentally why this is here, so that the community can have an opportunity to have a say. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Cole is the seconder.
I won't speak, Mayor.
Councillor Lucas, against the motion.
Thank you. I think the city's going to end up with egg on its face, because only a couple of months ago, on the Campursic Road issue, we saved the 60 trees, and part of our resolution was to write to Main Roads and to ask them to reduce the speed from 80 to 70. They've conducted an assessment. They don't have to go out and conduct surveys with local residents. They do it on safety issues. Main Roads have conducted that assessment, and as far as I'm aware, Mr Mayor, have advised the city that they'll be reducing the speed limit in January, which is only next month, a couple of weeks away, from 80 kilometres an hour to 70 kilometres an hour, which they deem the safe speed limit for Campursic Road. Now we have a motion to say, well, hang on, we want you to go out and consult again because a few people have objected of the lowering of the speed limit. It's like when Nangara Road first opened up. It used to be a 90 zone with a rickety old road with gravel edges. We upgraded it to dual carriageway both directions, put street lights on all the way, and it dropped down to 70. And we had people complaining. So it doesn't matter what the, unfortunately, the residents feel. It's what Main Road deem an appropriate speed limit, and they've determined that it's from January, in a few weeks' time, the speed limit will reduce to 70 kilometres an hour, and I think it'd be foolish to go back and ask them to redo their review, which they've just completed. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker for the motion. Any speakers against? No further speakers. Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to read the motion that Councillor Zanino put to Council, we didn't ask them to reduce the speed limit, Councillor Lucas. It said in Part 2, request Main Roads WA to undertake a speed review along this section of road to lower the speed limit. Review. Now that wasn't a request to drop it from 80 to 70, it was to review it. And you would hope in a review that it's not just going to be, well, here it is, take it or leave it. You would hope that people would have some say in the matter. I drive that road regularly at 80 k's an hour, and the trees don't actually jump out and hit me. They're on the side of the road. If you're a safe driver, you don't hurt yourself. So I just wanted to cover that point. But more the point, it's not a few people that have complained about this. there's been an absolute tirade of disappointment and upset from the general community that the process has seen them basically having to accept that a reduction to 70 k's would apply. And given it's a very straight road, and it's a fairly long road, the best way to resolve the key issues is to fix the adjoining intersections, particularly Hadrill Road. We need better forewarning that they're coming up to a road. It's very easy to drive straight across that intersection and miss Campersick. So that's the reasoning here, is if we fix the intersections, there won't be a significant need to have to reduce the speed limit. So that's the sort of stuff that would come out of community consultation and given a fair go. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you, Councillor. Those in favour? Six. Those in favour are Councillors McNamara, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Catalano, Councillor Kiley, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Scanlon. The rest are against, therefore the motion fails. Okay, we go to item, try again, C1.4, the deja vu, review of Walcott Avenue speed limit. Councillor Johnson.
Great minds think alike, Mr Mayor, but full send will differ. My motion is that Council resolve to request the CEO to take the necessary steps to reduce the speed limit to 50 kilometres an hour on Walcott Avenue between Sinopia Parkway and West Swan Road. The reason for the motion is that the reasons for the motion are that Walcott Avenue is a narrow country road with soft shoulders. The road surface has deteriorated. It apparently has a large increase in traffic as a result of the development of Brabham. It's now in an urban area and is not a safe road for vehicles to travel at 70 kilometres per hour on. Thank you.
Seconder? Councillor Scanlon. Is there anyone against? There is. We're going to have to debate it. A question to the CEO. What steps do you need to take, Mr CEO?
I cannot do that, Mr Mayor. It's illegal under the Main Roads Act. They're responsible for the erection of speed signs and any regulatory signs. I can't just go and implement it, Mr Mayor. We have to write to Main Roads and ask them to review it and to change the speed limit signs. I can't do it, Mr Mayor.
Mr Mayor, that was my intention by wording it like that, to get the CEO to do whatever he needs to do, i.e. write to Main Roads.
Okay. So we've got people against. So, Councillor Johnson, you're going to have to start the debate.
Right. Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, councillors, we debated Walcott Avenue, I think about 2 meetings ago. And after Walcott Avenue was debated, I went to actually take a look at it, and I was really quite surprised, Mr Mayor, by the poor condition of the road and the enormous speed that vehicles were travelling along it. They were going far faster than 70 kilometres an hour. And what I found was that my sort of on-site study was that, what do we know? We've got an enormous brand new urban development that is steadily encroaching towards the Swan Valley, as some councillors pointed out at the time, with the result of an extraordinary increase in traffic down there. Now, I do believe that people are allowed to drive down Walcott Avenue from Brabham, but it seems to me unreasonable that they're travelling at 70 kilometres an hour through what was originally a quiet rural area. The volume of traffic is significantly increased. I spent some time at the cafe just watching the cars go by, and then I went and actually walked along this short section of road, and I was surprised by how many potholes there were, and I reported the potholes to Mr Coaten, and they were filled in instantly. The very next day they were fixed. And I do recognise in the report that we are going to resurface this road in the near future. But even so, if it's resurfaced and it's still as narrow and it's still in the same location with the same volume of cars going along it, we are still going to need to reduce the speed limit. Councillors, just to, in the report here, it explains that the speed limit on Walcott Avenue currently varies from west to east. It's 50 kilometres an hour, then 60 kilometres an hour, and then 70 kilometres an hour from Sinopia Parkway to the West Swan Road. So my proposed change really is to try to more or less get the same speed limit more or less all the way along it. It is in effect an urban access road to the West Swan Road. So in my view, therefore, for reasons of safety and for amenity of the people who live along Walcott Avenue in that rural area, and they have got a lot of signs up there
pointing out the problem. I'd urge councillors to give serious consideration to supporting this motion because, in my view, it is a good balance between keeping Walcott Avenue open and letting people drive there so that people can drive down it and getting them to drive at a reasonable speed suitable for an urban area. So, councillors, please give due consideration to this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Scanlon is the seconder. Let's see your amendment.
I'm just trying to word it, possibly that request Main Roads to consider reducing the speed limit. Well, unless we have an exact speed that you're after, you can request that.
Well, I think we already clarified that the process of the CEO would have to write to Main Roads and ask to review it in the first place. Yes. So they'll come back what they believe is appropriate. Councillor Scanlon is the seconder.
Sorry, I'd just like to clarify the point that Mr. CEO, you said that you couldn't actually implement this.
No, I have to write to Main Roads and get them to do it.
Okay, so Councillor Richardson's amendment assists that.
Fine.
All right, I'm okay with that.
Oh, okay. Sorry, so we've made the amendment, is that right?
We're moving an amendment with something we've already clarified. So
Sorry, wasn't sure.
you can change it. You know, you want to amend it that the CEO writes to Main Roads to review the speed on Walcott Avenue, which probably should have said in the first place. It's the action the CEO is going to have to take. So if that's the amendment you want, okay. Is that okay with the mover and the seconder?
Yeah,
right,
it's okay.
part of the motion. Councillor Scanlon is the seconder. You wish
Nothing
to speak?
further to add, thank you.
Any speakers against? Question, Councillor Lucas.
Look, my Google map thing might not be up to date, but from what I can see on a map here, Sinopia Parkway doesn't intersect with Walcott Avenue. So there's Moormaya Street intersects and Sinopia runs off Moormaya, but I can't see an actual intersection of Sinopia and Walcott. So
I can answer that. The facts on the ground are completely different to what you see on Google Maps. So I was really quite surprised by the difference.
okay, I'll raise it as a question. I just want to make sure we get it right. Thank you.
Councillor Parry, you wish to speak against the motion?
Yes, I do, Mr Mayor. Very quickly, it's Councillor Johnson certainly did read the officer's recommendation, but he certainly did forget paragraph 4, which has said the city is able to request a review of the speed zone. However, it is unlikely that Main Roads would support a review at this time, as the review was recently undertaken. Main Roads would typically review a speed zone where there is significant change in the road environment warranting reassessment. However, no changes to the road have occurred since the recent review. It also stated the city had anticipated large increases in traffic volumes along Walcott Ave as a result of the construction of Henley Brook Ave, which was initially intended to be constructed from the north and connected to Reed Highway. However, in light of Main Road's recent announcement to fast-track the grade-separate West Swan Road and Reed Highway, the city is requesting its construction sequencing of Henley Brook Ave from the south. This is anticipated to alleviate a future spike in volumes along Walcott Avenue. The city anticipates Henley Brook Ave from Reed Highway to Walcott Ave to be constructed within 4 years. It would be appropriate to review the speed. It would be appropriate to review the speed review of Walcott Ave after this time. Very simply, it's the fact that they've already done a review recently. Therefore, they don't need to do another one. That's the only reason why I won't support it. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Any further speakers? Councillor Henderson, sorry.
Mayor, thank you. Just want to make a point. We got into a whole pile of trouble with the community over going through this process of review over Cambersick. And here we are putting up a motion to basically jump all over the community again without them having any input. Councillors, we're supposed to be listening to our community. That's our job. I've got one message here that's so full of expletives that I can't actually read it out about what this community member is thinking about us. So hello online to the community member. But the point I want to make is that Main Roads set a zone speed limit for the rural areas of 70 k's an hour over pretty much the whole Swan Valley, except a couple of very key roads like Oakover and Campasic. And that was done to meet horse riding and all the other activities. The point is that we've already said we don't want to knock down the trees on Wilcott, and so we're going to retain a rural road. People use it quite safely at 70 k's an hour, being rural and open and quite visible when you're driving. It's not an urban environment where you've got to have some kid run out of a dark corner and get run over on the road. It's a rural road, and for that reason, and the other reason of absolutely no community consultation in this regard, I can't possibly support it. Thank you.
Okay. Any further speakers? No? Councillor? A quick point, righto.
Thank you. Yeah, I actually agree about the community consultation aspect of it, especially since the community have got extremely strong views about what should happen on this portion of Walcott, and I think that this motion, without that, without the necessary kind of community consultation embedded in it, doesn't actually. It concerns me that we might actually not get it right, and we'll end up with something that actually the community out there don't want.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson, I'll ask you to close the debate. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, you may recall recently we did have some community consultation. We had lots of people from Wilcott Avenue telling us they wanted to close the road because the volume of traffic and the speed that the cars were going at was sufficient to warrant closing the road. I voted against closing the road. I thought it was an unreasonable step to take. But the point they're making is that their amenity has been impacted. We have heard from them. This is a reasonable step to take. It is one step short of closing the road. It slows it down. In terms of did I read the report? Yes, I did. And if you read the report carefully, very carefully, right at the beginning there, paragraph 4, it says the city is able to request a review of the speed zone, Mr Mayor. The city can do that. It's perfectly within this council's power, and the city's council request it. Who knows, we may get ignored. But the road has changed. The road itself, maybe the exact same road, Mr Mayor, but in fact it has been the exact same road for about 30 years. That's part of the problem. But it is being fixed shortly. But the issue is, the facts on the ground are that it is a 85% or possibly 90% urban road. So most of that road, people are restricted to 50 or 60 kilometres an hour, and then suddenly when the road deteriorates they can put their foot down and go at 70. So councillors, there has been a significant change to the area. In fact, Google Maps is not up to date in that area. So I think the change has occurred. It is perfectly justifiable. It is explained in the reasons for the motion, and I think it's very clear that this needs to be done. In my view, this road should stay open, but it should stay open as a low-speed country road, and I think this is pretty clearly in line with the wishes of the local community. They've had their say, and if you go and read the signs that they've put up along Wilcott Avenue, Mr Mayor, I think everybody would see that this is the right step to take. So do consider the community, councillors, and vote to slow down traffic on this tiny section of road. Thank you.
Those in favour? Councillor Johnson, Councillor Richards are in favour. The motion's lost. Takes us to 5.1. Councillor Colling, consideration of changes to local planning scheme number 17 to reflect Guildford being a place in the State Heritage Register of Heritage Places. Councillor Colling.
Thank you, Mayor, and it is a long title, so thank you for reading that for me. Councillor, this motion is that council direct the CEO to 1, provide a report to council that would consider the need for a scheme amendment for the same area of Guildford as provided in the State Register of Heritage Places. 2, submit the report to council following the completion of the review of the Guildford Conservation Policy, which is currently being undertaken. Within that report, make an assessment of the following inclusions as possible amendments to the local planning scheme 17. A, building height. Do you want me to go through each element, Mayor? or just each heading? Okay. A, building height. All new buildings are to be no greater than 2 stories above the higher of the existing ground level or the maximum 100-year average return period flood level. Building habitable spaces within the compliant roof pitch is permitted. Provision of vehicle parking or non-habitable spaces below the existing ground level or maximum flood level to be permitted additional to the 2-storey limit. And if I could summarise, you'd end up with basically a 4-level place building. B, roof pitch. All new buildings are to have a roof pitch between 28 degrees or a rise of 6.4 and a run of 12 and 35 degrees, 8.4 and 12, excluding any veranda. Roofing. All new buildings are to have the roofing constructed of either galvanised corrugated metal roofing or matte red within a red spectrum, fired clay tile roofing or wooden shingle equivalent only. D, street-facing facade. The street-facing facade or facades of a new building, that's a new building, excluding windows and doors, should predominantly be either timber weatherboard or having an equivalent appearance, or a matte red within a red spectrum fired brick. Fenestration, or the orientation of the windows. Any street-facing windows or doors for new residential buildings or changes to existing residential buildings will be vertically oriented and be of timber construction. F, plate height. All new residential and commercial buildings shall have a minimum ground floor wall plate height of 3 metres above the finished ground floor level. All second-storey additions, whether new residential or additions to existing residential, shall not have a second-storey wall plate height any greater than 80% of the first-storey plate height. Orientation. New single residential dwellings are to face or front toward the registered lot address of the site. In the case of multiple dwellings on a single lot, the dwellings abutting the registered lot address must face front towards the registered lot address of the site and comply with A through to I as if they were a single dwelling. H, second-storey additions. Additions of a second story to an existing residential or commercial building must have the external second-storey wall set back from the line extending vertically set back from a line extending vertically from any existing external street-facing wall. And I, feature verandas. All new buildings are required to have a front-of-house veranda or a street-facing veranda in total length no less than 50% of either the frontage length and to be no less than 1.5 metres in depth. Corner locations will require verandas on 2 sides of the property. The reasons for the motion: 1. The proposed amendments to Local Planning Scheme number 17 to be investigated, as above, are consistently being identified as important to the community in submissions relating to the development in Guildford and protecting it for the future. Number 2. The possible inclusion of these scheme amendments, and it's the possible inclusion, will provide certainty to the community and investors and will alleviate much of the staff time taken up by planning issues related to Guildford. 3. Changes to policy and or guidelines alone will not be sufficient to protect or enhance Guildford's unique heritage characteristics or to prevent incompatible development. And 4. The City of Swan Local Planning Scheme needs to be changed to reflect Guildford being placed on the State Register of Heritage Places to protect now and into the future those characteristics of Guildford which make it unique and worthy of protecting. Without consideration of these protections, state heritage listing will be of little importance.
Seconder. Councillor Scanlon, is there anyone against? There is. Councillor McNamara, you wish to debate it? I have a question. So, Councillor Coley, is it your intention that this report you're asking for here be run parallel with the report that the staff are conducting on the Guildford Conservation Precinct Policy and the Guildford Design and Development Guide?
No, Mayor, it would be concluded. It would be a report would come back, possibly with the report on the policy changes, and it would consider the need for a scheme amendment based on both the staff experience in consulting with the community. So it wouldn't be done in parallel. It would be done after there's been an assessment of the need for that through consideration of policy changes. So it's not a, you know, the report might be, yes, we do need a scheme amendment, or we don't, and then
include maybe policy changes that we've considered as a scheme amendment, or maybe some of these, maybe not some of these. It's if I could just add, it's possibly where the staff are going, and I suggest that the officer comments also provides for that. This is somewhat where they're going anyway, and may have to do a report on a scheme amendment anyway.
Thank you. Right, I go back. There was only Councillor McNamara, the only one against, and you didn't wish to debate it? No?
Mr. I will. Do you want to talk to it first?
Yeah, you do wish to debate it? Yeah. Councillor. Question.
The policy that is currently being undertaken, I mean, once all these things, this report is done and it's embedded in an amendment to the scheme, to the local planning scheme, then is there any point in doing the policy? Can someone explain that to me? What's the difference between the policy and, I mean, there's an amendment to the planning scheme, so is there a need for a policy?
Through you, if I may, the review of the Guildford policy considers all the elements that impacts the policy and the built form as a result of what is in the policy. So the review of the policy will consider these elements that was listed in the motion as to what extent it impacts the built form. The policy review will then also consider that the importance of those elements, and will determine and make a recommendation whether some of those or all of those could be addressed in a scheme amendment to make it clearer in that regard. So the policy review is the mechanism whereby you get the answers on whether these elements could be addressed in a scheme amendment. So in terms of what the motion proposes is, we will be assessing these elements as part of the policy review.
So just to clarify then, this motion on top of what you're already doing? I mean, are you already doing what is outlined in this motion or not?
As per our comments on page 500, I've confirmed that the policy review that we're currently undertaking is already considering those elements.
No more? Okay. Still wish to debate it?
No, if it's I leave it to council to make a decision on it. I'm totally against it.
Yep, okay, well, yes or no?
I'm happy to provide a...
Okay. Okay, if no one wishes to debate it, I'll put that vote. Those in favour? I have Councillors Johnson, Scanlon, Kiley, Zanino, Lucas, Parry, Henderson and Richardson are all in favour, so the motion is carried. Okay. Yep, I've got to find it. Okay, that chances now councils to the item of urgent business, which is councillors, thank you. Is a revocation from Councillor Kiley on planning approval for Lot 22, number 53A, number 53B, East Street, and Lot 350, number 30, number 32, Lot 51, number 28, and Lot number 6, number 26, Swan Street East. Councillor Kiley.
And I'll be leaving the room, Mr Mayor, because I've got a proximity interest.
And Mr Mayor, I'd like to move that we move behind closed doors so we can discuss the legal advice.
Okay. Councillor Scanlon wished to go behind closed doors for the legal advice. For a second, Councillor Congerton. Anyone against that? Well, if we're going to discuss the legal advice at any... Okay. I've been asked to make a determination on this based on the legal advice received from McLeod's. I'm now ruling this motion out of order. And that is my ruling that the motion is invalid and out of order based on the legal advice received today. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you, Mayor.
That brings us to all the items on the agenda. We'll now close the meeting. I wish everybody a very Merry Christmas. Those people listening, let's look forward to January 1 so we can say goodbye to 2020.